and Biegel in the morning.
Well, good morning and welcome to the Tuesday edition.
That's right, 1 week to go.
Tuesday, the week before election edition of the Dan Fagan, Glen Biegel show. We have a special guest in our studio today. Bonnie Cameron is in Hawaii, and we have Bethany Markham in for us today.
Good morning.
Good morning to you.
Happy to be here.
Well, we appreciate you coming in.
Yeah, I suppose it's pretty early.
It is early, isn't it? So tell me, I don't really know much about you. I know you've called the show. I've seen your name around.
That's scary.
Yeah. Bonnie speaks very highly of you. Glenn spoke very highly of you yesterday. Said that his comment to me was, since you got involved, things have really changed for the better.
Oh, that's nice, Glenn.
Well, that's true.
I'm sure there's no attribution there, though.
Oh, no. No, I mean, you took on every task, every chore, and it truly is. If people don't know this, and I know most people don't know this, one person in this state makes a huge difference. One person makes all the difference. I mean, I can't tell you, and you're the example to me of that. You make a difference.
Well, that's kind of you to say, but what I wish would happen was that one person would take on each issue as opposed to a few people taking on all the issues.
Yeah.
And if we just had one person that became an issue and kind of was the main activist who, tried to spearhead things going with every kind of important issue that we have, we would have a lot more activity and a lot more progress.
So you have a job, or you?
I have a couple of jobs.
You have a couple of jobs. What do you do?
I'm staff for Senator Dunleavy.
Oh,
is one
okay.
of the jobs,
All
and
right.
then I'm also in the Air National Guard. So.
Oh, you're in the Air National Guard. Wow, that's awfully interesting.
Yeah, it is nowadays, isn't it?
So how long have you been in the Guard?
I've been in the Air National Guard about 7 years. So
Oh,
I was in the
okay.
Navy Reserve for about 7 years before that. So
And what do you do for the Guard?
I'm intelligence analyst.
Wow. Okay. And so what are some of the things that you've been involved in that Glenn is describing?
Well, I was one of the founding members of the Anchorage Tea Party.
Okay. Is that still going?
Yeah, I mean
Eddie Burke runs that now, right?
No, Eddie Burke does not.
No,
He is
I'm joking.
Yeah,
Because I know I always hear these
I thought I
Facebook.
sensed an eye roll there. Actually.
Well, I
Oh,
see
you didn't sense it. You probably saw it.
I see these Facebook posts all the time. Eddie Burke is not the head of the Tea Party. So I don't know how'd that happen. How did he
Well,
get?
he was also one of the original founders, but
Okay.
he didn't last very long. And we, for several years now, we've been, he hasn't been involved at all.
Okay.
And he was kind of, I don't want to say voted off the board, but he hasn't been involved in this decision-making process for several years. So.
Was he kicked out?
No, he wasn't kicked out. He just stopped coming, and if people don't participate and come
right.
to anything, then they're not allowed to participate in the
And
decision-making.
how long ago was the Tea Party founded?
It was in 2010.
Okay. And you were one of the founding members? How many
I
founding
was.
members were there?
There were, I'm going to say 17 of us, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, sounds right, yeah.
That's great. And so you're still involved in that?
I am, yes.
How many
in
members
the
do you
party.
have now?
Well, we decided on a structure that's kind of odd because we actually, I don't know that we anticipated it, but we didn't want to have to deal with either APOC or federal IRS sort of oversight, and so we chose not to become like a 501c3 or any of
Gotcha.
those things. So we are what we call a loosely structured group of citizens. We've got over
Okay.
400 people on our email list
Okay.
in Alaska, and so we hold various educational events and that kind of thing.
And
so.
most of them are in South Central, or do you have a statewide?
Oh yeah, no, we're just Anchorage. We're called the Anchorage Tea Party.
Oh,
so
so
yeah, not
you're just
Alaska-based at all. Yeah, I mean we obviously deal with statewide issues, but all of our members and people we communicate with are local.
Now, how's the Tea Party different than the Conservative Patriots group?
Conservative Patriots Group primarily is in the Valley.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's Frank and Betty Bettini?
No, they left and moved out of state a while
Oh,
ago.
okay.
So it's Steve and Abby St. Clair are the
Okay.
folks running that now. So
Okay.
and we work closely with them on
And then
things.
what
so.
about Michael Chambers' group, the United for something?
Yep, UFL, United for Liberty.
Now, how are they different than the Tea Party or the...
Do you want to address that, Glenn? They're an umbrella group.
Yeah,
Oh, so they're
they have a whole bunch of different members from different groups.
Member groups.
So they're like the
Whole part of it.
AFL-CIO of unions.
Yeah, yeah.
They're over everything.
Yeah, so
Well, not over everything, but they like I don't know. I've participated with them quite a bit. I don't know that I'm a member, but so I guess there are a number of representatives of Republicans there too.
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, the Republican Party is one of the participants.
good.
How, and I know Glenn's real active in this, and I admire both of you for doing it, but how organized are conservatives in Alaska? Conservatives like you two and Bonnie and, the ones that really believe it to its core. How organized are you guys?
Well, like I said, I'm involved in lots of other groups. I'm involved in the Republican Party. I'm a district chair, and I'm also a regional rep, and I'm in the Republican Women's Club. So I'm lots of other groups. So some of those groups are more organized in terms of what you would consider formal organization, but some of them, like UFL and Anchorage Tea Party, has specifically chosen loose organization.
I see.
So I would say we're pretty connected. Yeah. But it depends on what you mean by organized.
Right.
The one big difference between the left and right, by the way, for people who don't know, and you look at Planned Parenthood versus Alaska Right to Life, perfect example. Mm-hmm. Planned Parenthood has millions. They provide abortions. They get all kinds of money from various public sources, government sources, private sources. United Way raises money for Planned Parenthood, not supposedly the abortion wing of United Way, the informational wing. But Alaska Right to Life might exist on, I don't know, $15,000 a year. So the difference largely is not in who believes what. It's how much money they're able to raise. I mean, you look at the union ability to raise money versus, AO37. Perfect example. What are they spending? $800,000 or $1 million? Mm-hmm. And the other side's got $50,000, $60,000.
Less.
So maybe even less than that. Yeah. So
conservatives
it's dramatically different.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
They go to work.
Well,
and sometimes more than one.
The real problem though, Dan, is a lot of conservatives do not participate. Mm-hmm. They do not put their money where their mouth is. There are great citizens, and like Bethany said, people are connected and they communicate quite a bit, and they'll show up and they'll do things. But the money is such a hard aspect for Republicans and conservative organizations to try and work through.
Yeah, that's where the power lies, ultimately. It's sad to say, but I think it's true.
Mm-hmm. So how do you change that?
Well, as we lose races that we shouldn't, a lot of times people get activated from that. Sometimes we win races that we probably shouldn't. Anand might be an example of that. I mean, there is just an amazing worker. You think he's going to win? Have you heard?
I think there's a good chance.
Yeah. So, and that's up against Matt Clayman, who was, the former play mayor for a while and gave away $80 million of additional raises. I mean, that's a tough act to beat. But so I don't know. I think that conservatism rises and falls and comes and goes. The one thing that I think is really hard for conservatives to try and outweigh is the cultural impact of movies and our schools. Those two things, schools,
culture,
because
entertainment,
they miseducate people on what the true gift America is, and movies because you're constantly fed left-wing propaganda, and as soon as you see a right-wing statement, comment, you're like, whoa, what was that?
Very true.
Did you see that?
Yeah.
And you flip out.
Yeah. I agree. Culture is a huge part of it.
Yeah. It's everything. And then this is what I think the left knew is they don't have to fight that hard between themselves. We'll just let the culture move us.
569-1080. 569-1080. It's Dan Fagan, Glen Biegel, Bethany Markham in today for Bonnie Cameron. We're broadcasting on KOAN, KVNT. Stay with us. Cameron. We're broadcasting on KOAN, KVNT. Stay with us.
You're on with Fagan and Biegel. Give him a call, 569-1080, KOAN.
Here's my good friend, Keith Montronock.
Automotive repairs can be frustrating. Let me help. Call 349-1637. I have been in business for nearly 20 years at the same location. Specialty Truck and Auto is in South Anchorage behind the Long Branch Saloon where Diamond becomes Abbott. I have 6 ASE certified technicians working from 7 a.m. until 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. I have a voucher for any of the 6 Alaska Laser Wash locations for each customer. If you schedule ahead and need a ride when you drop your vehicle off, I may be able to help. Call Specialty Truck and Auto, 349-1637.
My name is Billy Yelvington, and I love being a firefighter.
2 years ago, while fighting a fire, the roof collapsed while Billy was underneath.
Didn't think I was going home.
Captain Mike Hermes and engineer Kevin Woolsey made up the rest of the crew that day.
With the snow load and everything else, they figured that section of the roof was about 6,000 pounds.
Captain Hermes calls a mayday. A firefighter is down.
I says, I got to stay with Billy. And I remember he said 4 words to me. He says, go. I got this. When they finally got him out, I still had that same feeling that he's probably not going to make it.
Billy did make it. But under AO-37, firefighters' voices are silenced on staffing and equipment needs. AO-37 makes a dangerous job more dangerous.
I'm convinced one less firefighter there that day, Billy won't debate her.
Vote no on one to keep politics out of public safety. This message is paid for by Repeal 37 and approved by former Police Chief Walt Monaghan and former Fire Chief Craig Goodrich chairs. Top 3 contributors are APDEA, Anchorage Firefighters, and AFSCME International of Washington, D.C.
I'm Mark Begich, running for U.S. Senate, and I approve this message. Paid for by Alaskans for Begich.
Who will protect your privacy rights in the U.S. Senate? Dan Sullivan worked for Condoleezza Rice, one of the architects of the surveillance state. She's in Sullivan's TV ads because he helped implement her agenda that threatens Alaskans' liberty, like extending the Patriot Act that allows the government unlimited access to your personal records. And when Sullivan was with the National Security Council, the NSA authorized warrantless wiretaps of U.S. citizens. Sullivan is bankrolled by the billionaire Koch brothers, who have been manipulating the oil markets for years, driving up gas prices. And Sullivan even opposes the Stand Your Ground law that allows you to defend yourself in your own home. Only 2 candidates oppose the Patriot Act and NSA wiretapping and support Stand Your Ground. And that's Mark Begich and Libertarian Mark Fish. True Alaskans fighting the Dan Sullivan surveillance state.
Gabrielle Ledoux is running for State House for all the right reasons. Her opponent is promising to do what Ledoux is already doing. Gabrielle walks her talk. She believes in results over rhetoric. Walking door to door, year after year, Gabrielle Ledoux knows that it's what local residents want that matters. As your representative, Gabrielle Ledoux continues to fight for funding for good roads and public safety. Gabrielle Ledoux fought for the local parks that we all value and that our families all use. Gabrielle Ledoux fought for responsible school funding to make sure our children are prepared to compete for jobs and for responsible economic decisions to make sure job opportunities exist.
I'm Gabrielle Ledoux. I've worked hard to represent East Anchorage and J-Bear, and I'd appreciate your continued support.
Paid for by Ledoux for State House, 8859 Cross Point Loop, Anchorage, 99504.
Do you remember that Beatles song? If the rain comes, they'll run and hide their heads. You know which one I'm talking about. Well, if that's you and you're inside your home or office, it's time to call Earhart Roofing. Call Earhart Roofing for all your roofing needs. Flat or pitched, large or small, Earhart Roofing will do the job quickly, and they'll do it right. Earhart Roofing, big enough to serve you and still small enough to care. Call 345-5555. That's 345-5555. Hot Talk KOAN, man.
You're on with Fagan and Biegel. 1080 K.
$6:19 on a Tuesday morning. It's the 28th day of October. We're a week away from the election. Halloween's this Friday. Also on Friday, I, along with my good friend Amanda Coyne of amandacoyne.com, will be moderating a governor's debate out at Evangelo's in the Valley. It starts at 11:30, and they serve food at 11:30. Then the debate starts at noon, goes to 1:30.
I want you to tell me, by the way, a question that you're not going to ask because it's too much of a zinger.
Parnell will be there. Dan Sullivan, the mayor, will be there. Byron Malott will be there. Yeah, can you believe that? I didn't know he went anywhere. And of course, Bill Walker. So Malott is going to take a question for me. Can you believe that?
Wow, that's fantastic.
I just thought I'd never be able to get an interview with him.
I went to the Lieutenant Governor's forum. He answered questions, but he just basically gave Dan Sullivan's answers.
Oh, is that right? Yeah. So that's going to be
chameleon.
Now, here's the thing. Here's what we insisted on. It's total open forum, no speeches, no you have 30 seconds to respond, none of that crap. It's just we're going to take questions from the audience. I'm going to ask questions. Amanda's going to ask questions. There's no rules.
Wow, anything goes.
Anything goes.
Now, that would not work with Begich at all.
Yeah, he would just,
blah, blah, blah,
filibuster the whole thing.
Blah, 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 blah.
Well, I just have to interrupt him 50 times.
You're pretty good at that.
But that's what he do.
But, yeah. I mean, that's why they need you as somebody who's done radio before to be able to.
Well, it's going to be fascinating. They sold the thing out, so it's going to be good.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Who's
This
hosting
is
it?
such an exciting race.
The Matsu Business Alliance.
Okay, yeah. They do a lot of those kinds of events.
Yeah. So it'll be fun. So come to that Friday if you can. I think there's still some tickets left. I don't know.
So
Maybe
are you gonna? You should tell me a question you're not gonna ask.
How many times have we been over this?
You don't think of your questions but think of a question that you would not ask because it's too much of a zinger.
If we've got Mark Begich on the show in Christmas of 2019, Glenn will have his questions written out today for them.
Are you faulting him for being organized?
And when I ask a question, I literally think of it one split second before it comes out of my mouth. And he's always asking, "What are you going to ask him?" I don't know.
No, I want to know what you're not going to ask him.
I don't know what I'm not going to ask him. I don't know what I'm going to ask him. I don't know what I'm not going to ask him.
Dang it.
But I'll know when I get there.
That was a good question. I was trying to get around his natural inclination not to think of his questions early.
Push him to his limits, right?
And plus, if I was going to ask them a question, I don't want them to know it.
No, that's what I'm saying. That's why I want to know. I want to know a question that you're not going to ask him because it's too much of a zinger.
What's your favorite color, Bill Walker? I will not be asking that.
Okay, that doesn't sound like a zinger. Yeah. But maybe it might be chartreuse or something.
I know one question I am going to ask him.
It might be the only solid answer you get from him.
Which it'll be very interesting to see if he answers it, and I'm sure at least one of his people is probably listening. Was Alice Rogoff, publisher of the Alaska Dispatch News, involved in any way in the forming of the Unity ticket? I doubt he'll answer it, but
well,
I'll ask it.
Did you solicit any information from her? Maybe something like that. Because even if she went to a meeting,
he could
involved
involved in any way is a pretty encompassing.
All right.
Right?
Well, involved in any way in the formation.
Formation's the word, yeah.
Or present at any meetings.
Yeah.
Have you met with her at all?
Well, I would like to know whether or not. Here's what I want to know about Alice. I want to know if she knows more about what's going to happen if they get elected than I do. That's really what I want to know, because she has no right to know that, and act like she's not taken aside.
Well, I don't think that. I don't really. I agree with you that would be interesting, but the big thing is, look, her paper is so biased toward Walker and so anti-Parnell. You can go to any playground in Anchorage right now and find a 5-year-old and show her the papers, and she would say, "Yeah, that's biased." So that's not really the issue. The issue is she biased because she was in on the formation of the ticket? Because that is a conflict of interest, and it is a disservice to her readers. We understand the media can be biased, and they often are. But if you got skin in the game, if you're involved in a ticket in any way, any capacity, giving them advice, working with them, meeting with them, and yet you consider yourself a journalist, no. That is unacceptable.
Yeah, doesn't fly.
Yeah, well, and she also printed something in her own paper, and, she hires many people. She employs many people. All of them are essentially involved in the same setup, which is get them. And it's different. It's different for people. Bethany, you and I, we're involved in various campaigns. Mostly we just suggest, well, tell me what it is you want to say, and we talk to them about what they want to say, that kind of thing. But when you employ people, and then you can actually spend money, and your newspaper can print whatever articles, whatever stories. Well, now you've got a whole different range of options and attacks and methods, and to try and turn the election, which obviously she's trying to do.
Dan, what's the status of your article?
What's that?
What's the status of the article you're working on? Still working on it?
Yeah, I haven't decided how exactly to approach that, but I'm going to do an article on Alice Rogoff's role in the Unity ticket. The thing is, I guess the one side of the story is, hey, she spent $15 million for a newspaper. She can do anything she wants, and I agree with that. She can, but I'm just asking, as a reader, as a citizen of Alaska, if you're going to buy a newspaper and you're going to work with a campaign, and you're not going to disclose that?
Yeah, reveal that. Yeah,
I just want to know that. Look,
agree.
I have never worked with a campaign, and I never will. Because as a talk show host, it compromises my credibility. And that's just part of the deal. And that's just, that maybe I'm old school. I come from old school journalism. But that's just the way I think it should work. And she just needs to disclose. She needs to let us know, look, I have worked with this campaign. I tried to encourage them to form. I think it's a good thing this campaign's going forward.
And here's what I know about it.
Well, no, not even that. No,
I would like to know that.
No, not really. No,
Yeah.
I don't think that's the big a deal. It's her paper. Everybody knows that. You can do anything you want. It's like Bob Atwood promoted statehood. Everybody knew it. Everybody knew that's what he wanted. When you picked up the Anchorage Times, you knew they were going to promote statehood. Okay, that's all I want. I just want disclosure. And she has refused to answer. To me, that's a really big deal.
And you and Bethany and I do come from different corners because we started in the political realm.
Correct.
Yeah, I ran for office.
Activist,
I was on the Central Committee for 10 years. I was district chair of the Republican Party year after year after year. I mean, I've been involved in dozens of campaigns.
Yeah, so you even started from the political side. I started from the activist side and then kind of moved into the political side.
Okay.
And then
Glenn and I've talked about his role with candidates, and I know you have intimate relationships and roles with candidates, and I have some heartache with that, but I know your heart's good. But in the end, I think it just hurts the show because, look, people have to know that we're coming on here and we have one agenda, what we believe is true, not a candidate we worked with and gave advice to and had, strategy sessions with. It's because we think that's the best candidate. And that's the only way a show will ever reach, a broad audience.
Again, as long as you reveal that, it's kind of like what you're
saying. That's all you got to do.
Though.
That's all you got to do. Disclosure. All right, 569-1080, 569-1080. I wanted to get into this
hot water.
Well, this voter shaming, public shaming, using these mailers. Here's one of the letters that was sent out. What if your friends, your neighbors, and your community knew whether you voted? Why do so many people fail to vote? We've been talking about the problem for years, but it only seems to get worse. This year, we're taking a new approach. We're sending this mailing to you, your friends, and your neighbors, your colleagues at work, and your community members to publicize who does and who does not vote. The chart shows the names of some of your friends, your neighbors, and other people you know, showing which one voted in the past. After the November 4th election, we intend to mail an updated chart. You, your friends, your neighbors, and other people will all know who voted and who did not vote. And then it has like November 2008 election, November 2010, November 2012, and then November 2014 question marks.
I like it. I gotta be upfront and honest. And while there is the privacy law, we have a constitutional right to privacy. It says the legislature shall implement this section. The legislature's never said that our voting records are private. How we vote is totally private. Who we voted for is totally private, although Dan asked pretty much every person who's ever on the show how they voted.
How'd you vote?
But, that is totally private, and that's the one objection I actually have to this article. But if I'll take the side, if you don't vote, these are public records. People have the right to publish whether or not you didn't vote. So go vote. If you don't like to not, to be known as somebody who didn't vote, then fix it. Get off of your keister, if I may.
I have a little bit different take. I mean, I in the sense I do agree it's okay for it to be public because it is already public if somebody took the effort to do that. But when we come back, maybe I'll tell you why I have a little bit different view.
629, Fagan, Biegel, and today Bethany Markham for Bonnie Cameron. Stay with us.
The Anchorage School District has provided some projections about cost savings that could come from closing a dozen schools. The projections were requested by the local school board, which is looking into a number of options to save money. No schools, however, have actually been slated for closure. A man carrying a box cutter at a Sears store in Fairbanks was arrested after he allegedly picked up a pickaxe in the hardware section, told a clerk that he intended to rob the store and that the clerk should call the police. No one was injured during the incident. Finally, get a load of this. Groups that oppose the legalization of marijuana here are pointing to an increase in fires in Colorado, one of the arguments against it. They say that state experienced a hike in fires, home explosions, and injuries after becoming the first to legalize pot. That's your Hot Talk News update. Local weather is next.
Partial sunshine for today, high 30. For tonight, mostly clear skies and cold, low 15. Partly sunny tomorrow, high 32. Wednesday night, low 19. Thursday, sunshine and clouds, high 32. Friday, cloudy, high 33. Hot Talk, breaking news, and the latest weather, KOAN 95.1 FM and 1080 AM.
6 years ago, we took a chance on Mark Begich. Begich promised us he'd be an independent voice for Alaska. Instead, he's voted with Barack Obama 97% of the time for Obamacare, wasteful spending, and trillions in debt. Begich supported them all, even though they hurt Alaska. 6 years ago, Begich promised to fight for ANWR. 6 years later, ANWR is still closed to exploration, and Begich stood by as Obama's overzealous EPA hurt Alaska. Instead of taking responsibility for his failures and broken promises, Begich is running a vicious act called some of the most dishonest and inflammatory of the year. We gave Mark Begich a chance. He gave us a record of Obamacare, wasteful spending, and broken promises. We can't afford 6 more years of Mark Begich. Alaska needs a change. Roads paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising, not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. www.americancrossroads.org.
Gabe, your 2 minutes are up. Herman, your 2 minutes are up. Your 2 minutes is up.
This is Harry Crawford, and those were the actual words of Kathy Giesel during public testimony. I believe a legislator's first and most important job is to listen to you. As I go door to door, I'm hearing you say you want intelligent, realistic budgets, not the deficit budgets this legislature has passed time and time again. Now, Kathy Giesel wants to fix the permanent fund. Me, I want to set your permanent fund dividend in stone by putting it in the Alaska Constitution.
Harry Crawford's plan to constitutionalize a permanent fund will keep politicians' hands off your dividend. Harry voted against 7 capital budgets because they didn't balance. Harry Crawford sponsored the Red Stripe law that keeps problem drinkers from buying alcohol. And Harry Crawford spearheaded the Trust the People initiative to let you elect your own U.S. senators.
Trust the people. Those are words I live by. This is Harry Crawford, and I would appreciate your vote.
Paid for by Crawford for Alaska, Anchorage.
Do you know Lynn Gaddis?
Yeah, I know Lynn Gaddis. Drove a 570cc sled to the peak of McKinley in a gall dang blizzard.
Hey, I never did that.
I heard Lynn Gaddis skinned a rabbit with her teeth in 10 seconds flat.
That never happened.
I heard that Lynn Gaddis fights for conservative principles in state government.
Well, that's true. I'm Lynn Gaddis. I love to hunt and fish, and yes, I love to ride snow machines. But what I really love is making life better for my friends and neighbors in Wasilla by bringing common sense and conservative values to Juneau. I believe in a sustainable budget. I believe in regulatory reform and resource development. And I believe in school choice and parental rights. I'm Lynn Gaddis, and I'd appreciate your vote to keep skinning some rabbits in the state legislature.
I knew it!
Just kidding.
Paid for by committee to elect Lynn Gaddis, 1650 North Shoreline Drive, 99654.
Wells Fargo has exciting news. Until November 16, 2014, customers can come in for a free credit score and complimentary credit report. That's almost as exciting as a credit tip sung by our barbershop quartet.
Your payment history is the biggest factor in your credit score.
Not bad, guys. Come into Wells Fargo for your free credit score and complimentary credit report. Wells Fargo.
Together we'll go far.
Wells Fargo Bank N.A. member FDIC. See a banker for specific promotion details.
All my life, I've enjoyed hunting and fishing. But as I got older, it made it harder to enjoy the Alaskan outdoors. Thanks to Chugash Chiropractic, I'm back on the stream enjoying Alaska.
Besides aligning the spine, we also deal with the musculature and the nervous system of the body. To do that, we not only adjust the spine, but we also balance muscles along with various therapies and deep tissue therapy. We help bring the body back to normal function.
Biegel on Hot Talk KOAN and online at 1080K.
.6:35 in the morning. Good morning to you. Welcome to the broadcast. Dan Fagan, Glen Biegel here. We also have Bethany Markham in, who's filling in for Bonnie Cameron while she's on vacation, or as Ivan Moore might say, she's on holiday
or vacay.
We're talking about this story about Alaska voters being shamed. There's a letter that's being circulated to Alaska voters to showing how often they voted and promising to send out another one after November 4th, letting people know how they are going to vote on November 4th. It targets their Facebook friends and apparently neighbors. Glenn thinks it's a good idea. Your thought again, real quickly, is?
Well, I'm just taking this position almost to be devil's advocate. I think they're.
Oh, wait a minute now. So you don't think it's a good idea?
I think that it's politically suicidal and stupid. But I want people
this
to go
is where
vote.
I need Bonnie, because I don't know if you're going to be as bold. Did he not just take a completely opposite position before
the break? Yeah, pretty
Thank
much.
you. But anyway, I'm taking.
So you changed your mind?
I'm taking the position for being a devil's advocate because I didn't think anybody was going to take this position.
Well,
that's why I took it.
so when do we know when you're devil's advocate, and when do we know when you're serious?
Well, you just have to work that out yourself. But here's my point. I like people to go vote.
What's that?
You can't see the horns come out?
Tell me about Bethany.
Well, I mean, I agree with what he said before the break in the sense that I don't really have a problem with it because it is public information. In the same way that, like, the whole municipal salaries thing that the Policy Forum published, it's public information. People may not like the fact that they're publishing public information, but the reality is it's public information, so I don't have a problem with them doing it.
But you said you had a different take than Glenn did.
I did. My concern with it is not that they're sending the letters, but it's that I don't necessarily want a lot of those people to be voting because I believe that so many people in our culture today are uninformed and they're so influenced by culture and entertainment and those kinds of things that they don't know enough that I don't want those people voting necessarily unless they start getting ginned up on the issues and know what they're talking about.
Well, I would imagine if these people are sophisticated enough to come up with this information, they're sophisticated enough to know who they're sending the information to. And I would imagine it's probably targeting conservative voters, or at least Republican voters.
Well, I'd want to know that before.
Yeah, I would think these guys know what they're doing in that regard.
Yeah, I don't like to assume that, but
yeah. So, Glenn, just so I'm clear, the real Glen Biegel, can I speak to him for a minute?
Yep.
So, do you think this is a good idea or a bad idea?
I think that it is an appropriate use of public information, and I think it could be very politically suicidal. That's what I think.
So you have mixed feelings about it?
I have mixed feelings.
Well, that's why the group doesn't really, they're not a group that they know it's politically suicidal too, potentially.
Because they're not revealing themselves.
Right.
We have the name of the group, but we don't know who they are.
Alaska Voter
paid
Project
for
or something?
By Opportunity.
Alaska State
Alliance,
Voter Program.
PAC, not authorized by any candidate or candidate committee.
It looks kind of like it comes from the state of Alaska, the Division of Elections.
So you think it's suicidal? Address that for me. Why do you think it's suicidal?
Well, let's just say that there was any tie between this organization and Dan Sullivan, which there is not. This is what Dan Sullivan is out using your information, mining your Facebook friends in order to find out who's voted in your circle. We do not want this kind of a person taking over our... Oh, yeah.
Or tied to Begich. It could be Begich, too.
Well, of course. Well, Begich would have no problem. In fact, I thought this might even be put out by Begich's folks
well, if it's
just
tied
to taint the other side.
If it's tied to Begich, the dispatch won't report on it. If it's tied to Sullivan, they'll be all over it.
Yeah, that's
so.
Well, my conspiracy theory, if you will, which I know you love, was somebody on the left had done this so that they could sort of shame conservatives. That was my...
So now what?
my take on it.
You think it's suicidal, but you also think it's appropriate because...
It is appropriate that people know, first of all, your voting record, not who you voted for. That is totally private, and that's the one real problem I have with this whole story. I will highlight for you a sentence in here where Michelle Theriot Boots, the writer of the story, she says this: whom a person votes for is always supposed to remain private.
She intimates that it's not.
Does she have any information? That totally leads a person to think, oh, they know when I voted. They also know who I voted for. She is leading them on, and that is a very false statement. That is a misleading statement if I've ever read one, and Michelle Theriot Boots needs to know that is bias.
Which makes me think she must know it's a conservative.
I think absolutely.
Yeah, trying to...
Yeah. So anyway, I don't like that. Nobody knows who you voted for. Even after you put your thing in, there's no indication of your identity whatsoever. They cannot know who you voted for. So that I thought was really below the belt, that one part of this stuff. But as far as people understanding, and you know what they ought to do? They ought to make this available for people to know who in their circles is not voting, so that they can go to them personally and say, look, honestly, I will do anything to get you to the polls. I know you're a good person. You understand the issues. If you don't know where to vote, I'll tell you where to vote. If you can't get a ride there, I'll give you a ride there. This could very well be used for great effect if it was used inside your own circle. So I don't have any problem with the idea of it, but it's got to be done in exactly the right way. Otherwise, it's hugely politically dangerous. Brian, is that cool?
Yeah, I just can't believe that nobody's ever come up with this one before. But to get people to vote, wouldn't it be cool to save all the money they use trying to get people to vote and have a little lottery? So everybody that votes gets a ticket, and you can win just by state or whatever, possibly $100,000 or something if you vote. That is going to get everybody and their dog and their dead relatives
never have
out
a
voting.
Republican
All the
elected
wrong
again.
people voting.
Watch
Why can't
Bethany
everybody
and
vote?
my head here.
No.
We'd never
Yeah.
get a Republican
Well,
elected
they
again.
actually have done this before, Brian.
Okay.
This is against the law,
I wanna
by the way, and it has to do with sort of the reverse of the poll tax. What they used to do in order to suppress minority votes, people who didn't own property, is they would tax you if you went in to vote. The opposite of that is giving money away to try and influence people to get them to the polls.
Well, they're
They
not
did
giving it
this.
to
This
you.
is how Tony Knowles won election. He won, I think, by 437 votes, if I recall correctly. And they had a massive voter turnout up in the North Slope, where they gave away, it was either $5 or $10 gas cards for every person who went and voted. And that is how they got the vote out in that election. And
Well,
it
I'm not
was illegal.
suggesting that. Yeah.
Well, but that basically
Same
is what
concept.
Only one person can win.
that's
It
why
was
Bethany
illegal?
and I both go like this.
It was illegal?
It's illegal to give away money to influence people
Entice
to go
people to
vote.
vote.
So
Yeah.
why was nothing done?
I think something was done, and it's never been done again. Yeah.
So there was an APOC violation? Or
Yeah, it was an APOC violation. You know, it was. But
So is
they,
it only
they
a
didn't.
state rule?
They didn't
State law then?
overturn the election because of it, because you can't go rerun an election.
Is
And
it a-
once the election's over, it's over.
Is it a state law then, Glenn, or federal?
Yeah,
Do
yeah.
know
You
the state?
can't pay people
Okay.
to go vote, and I think it's in every state, but I believe it's federal as well.
Okay.
Now, can the PAC pay people if you come in and show your voter sticker?
You can't offer people. You can't say, "I'll buy you a drink if you go vote." You can't give them money to go vote. You're not allowed to give people stuff in order to vote. It's the same thing for candidates, which is why I'm really wondering about Bill Walker and the Great Alaska Schools, because he kind of said, "Look, I am for an increase in the base student allocation," and then they gave him their endorsement, which seems like quid pro quo to me.
Well, I got some thoughts on this whole thing. We'll get to that when we come back. 6:44, Fagan, Biegel, and Bethany Markman today from Bonnie Cameron. Time 6:44. We're broadcasting on KOAN, KVNT. Our number, if you want to jump in, 569-1080. 569-1080. 569-1080. 569-1080.
Don't just sit there. Give them a call. 569-1080. Join the conversation. KOAN.
Hi, my name is Mike Ferris, president of Alaska Enterprise Solutions. We are the face of Xerox in Alaska. Xerox is a trendsetter, and AES Xerox is following in those footsteps. We are the document management experts, specializing in short-term rentals of copiers and scanners. We have offices in Anchorage and Fairbanks, and we are your Xerox professional agency with an Alaska focus and worldwide support. You can reach us at aesalaska.com or 561-5100.
I'll never forget
that moment.
As long as I live.
As long as I live.
My first call-up ever as a member of the National Guard.
When we got to the armory, they briefed us on the wildfires. They were getting dangerously close to homes.
Helicopters were going out to drop water on the fires. Guys in the unit were preparing for firefighting with local fire crews. At that moment, I got my first taste of just how important the Guard is to my community.
See how the Guard can be an important part of your life at NationalGuard.com.
Sponsored by the Alaska National Guard, aired by the Alaska Broadcasters Association and this station.
2014, Alaska's economy is picking up steam. Governor Sean Parnell has a gas pipeline project on track, signed agreements, field programs up and running, funding in place. But it's an election year, see? Bill Walker wants to stop this train. Walker's plan? Well, it doesn't amount to a hill of beans in this crazy election. Walker tried to stop any gas line that didn't go to Valdez. Walker's plan had no gas, no permits. Alaskans know three things about Governor Parnell. He's an honest man, keeps his word, and cares deeply about Alaska. Parnell got Cook Inlet booming, Point Thompson and the gas pipeline moving forward, 16,000 new jobs created. Walker, he'd be a governor we'd regret. Maybe not today, but soon.
Re-elect Governor Sean Parnell, paid for by Parnell Sullivan 2014 for Alaska's future.
I'm Mark Begich, running for U.S. Senate, and I approve this message. Paid for by Alaskans for Begich.
Who will protect your privacy rights in the U.S. Senate? Dan Sullivan worked for Condoleezza Rice, one of the architects of the surveillance state. She's in Sullivan's TV ads because he helped implement her agenda that threatens Alaskans' liberty, like extending the Patriot Act that allows the government unlimited access to your personal records. And when Sullivan was with the National Security Council, the NSA authorized warrantless wiretaps of U.S. citizens. Sullivan is bankrolled by the billionaire Koch brothers, who have been manipulating the oil markets for years, driving up gas prices. And Sullivan even opposes the Stand Your Ground law that allows you to defend yourself in your own home. Only two candidates oppose the Patriot Act and NSA wiretapping and support Stand Your Ground. And that's Mark Begich and libertarian Mark Fish. True Alaskans fighting the Dan Sullivan surveillance state.
Paid for by Pruitt for State House, 2954 Brittany Place, Anchorage.
Let's Pruitt for our future.
We'll fight for you and me, a strong economy.
What do educators and parents say about Lance Pruitt?
As a parent, I appreciate what Lance has done for schools and sports programs in East Anchorage.
From my perspective as a high school principal, Lance Pruitt is the best choice for East Anchorage.
Lance knows our kids are Alaska's future and much more than a budget line item.
Lance Pruitt is a genuine advocate for education. He supports teachers and knows the tools they need to be effective in the classroom.
As a teacher and a mom, I know Lance is the kind of leader we need to continue to move Alaska and education forward.
I'm voting for Lance because he's someone Alaska can trust.
Lance Pruitt, a true advocate for education and East Anchorage. November 4th, re-elect Lance Pruitt.
Lance Pruitt, he will do it for our future.
On with Fagan and Biegel in the morning. Give him a call, 569-1080. KOAN.
All right, it's 6:49. Dan Fagan, Glen Biegel on KOAN, KVNT. Our number 569-1080. Bethany Markham is sitting in filling in for Bonnie Cameron today, who's on vacation. We're talking about this letter that is being sent out to shame voters into voting, exposing them, their non-voting habits to their neighbors. Glenn, you referenced this back in 1994, this incident that happened on the North Slope where they tried to incentivize people to vote, and some believe that it swung the election towards Tony Knowles. Here was what the voter incentives were. Gave each voter up to 10 gallons of gas.
Oh, 10 gallons of gas?
Yeah, called the Voter Assistance Program. The gas was supposed to be used to cover the cost of driving to the polls. And another incentive, a Fairbanks area Native organizations, $1,000 voter raffle. This is Brian's idea. A postcard was mailed to the Native Corporation folks, said people could enter by submitting their name and address on their ballot stub. So you had your ballot, you could win $1,000. Another native corporation had a series of $50 voter raffles. So you have your ballot, you can win $50. Raffles for free groceries in the village of Eagle, near Fairbanks. A voter raffle for a free airline ticket was organized by the Anchorage Chamber of Commerce. These were all approved by the Division of Elections. Approved by state and federal election officials. I just don't see how that could be legal. It says lawyers for Native organizations said their voter incentives were approved by state and federal election officials. How could that be? I'm assuming the law has changed since then.
Yeah, that's my understanding, is that it's not legal to do any of that now.
I would hope. Are you kidding me?
Pay people to go vote?
That's terrible. You know, look, men and women in uniform have given their very lives for us to vote. And if we're too lazy to take 10 minutes out or 20 minutes out, or even if it's an hour, you got to stay in line. You know, I can't personally comprehend that. I can't begin to understand that approach to your own country. The country in which your children will live after you've been gone. Your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren will live after you're gone. The power that we have as citizens is to vote. And for people who don't vote, I don't get that.
I think most people don't think that their vote matters, though.
I think I don't know. I don't, maybe so.
I don't even think they get that far. They watch TV like 4 or 5 hours a day. They go to work. They watch TV 4 or 5 hours a day. They don't like politics. They don't know anything about it. It's dirty. It's something you don't discuss with other people. They watch football, whatever.
That's the background I came from.
Bowling.
You do not discuss it.
It could be
discuss it. Yeah.
It could be the negativity that's so strong in political campaigns. You know, I can see how a low information voter who doesn't understand the difference between capitalism and socialism would look at Mark Begich and Dan Sullivan and say, I don't like either one of them. Because you've seen enough commercials on both of them. I don't like, Dan Sullivan's rich daddy wants to buy him the election. Mark Begich ruined the city of Anchorage when he was mayor. I don't like either one of them. And what they don't understand. Go ahead, Brian.
Oh, they're both convincing you to hate the other guy.
Yeah, exactly. And so then people just don't have anything to do with it.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, I vote every time. I just wish more people would.
Yeah.
I saw a story yesterday that I think there's some countries, like Brazil especially, where it's required to vote. And hey, let's do it over the weekend. You know, you got a couple days.
Yeah.
It would just be nicer if more people were involved, I guess.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I don't really know about that. I don't know that I agree with that. I agree that I don't understand why you wouldn't vote. But if you're not going to take the time out of your life to turn off Everybody Loves Raymond and actually pay attention and pick up a newspaper or listen to talk radio or read a website, I would rather you not vote.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
Because it's just going to be, you're going to vote for the person you think is the nicest or has the nicest family or made you laugh once or something.
That's what I used to do.
Yeah.
That's how I used to vote.
Yeah, I mean,
now, when did you stop doing that, by the way?
I know what
and
I'm
why?
doing when
2008.
Right.
2008, Joe.
So back to the...
No, he was 2010. Sorry.
So
Continue.
back to the article about shaming voters. I don't think this is... I'll tell you, there's nothing I hate more than shame. You ever see these Facebook posts where, well, I support fighting breast cancer. Let's see who has the courage to repost this.
Yeah.
I immediately unfriend people like that. Do not try to shame me into doing anything. There's nothing more counterproductive for me, because I'm as stubborn as anybody.
You're more stubborn than anybody.
I ooze with stubbornness.
I
got stubbornness coming out of my ears and my pores. And you try to shame me, I'll tell you what, I'll never vote again just to show your ass. I'll go the rest of my life and never vote. You're going to try to shame me into voting. So there's just nothing I hate more.
So I take it you don't like this
Here's
campaign?
the question. Here's the question: is if this is our civic duty, is it really shameful to let people know that you're not voting?
I don't like shaming as a tool.
Is it shaming?
Yes, it's shaming.
Oh,
it's
it's
100% shaming.
Yeah.
What else could it be?
Nothing. It's
transparency.
Pure shaming.
Transparency. Yeah, it's just information.
It's pure shaming.
What if you look at it as like they're telling your good things that you've done. You know.
That's right.
You could look
Yeah,
at.
they're.
That's not how they approach.
There's a whole bunch of voters on there who did vote.
You could be proud of it.
569-1080. 569-1080. Mary, you're on.
Hi. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi. I grew up on the island of Guam.
No, I've been to Guam.
What? I want to live there.
Nice.
It's a U.S. territory, right? And we vote for president, but it doesn't get counted.
Right.
Ugh.
And we also have a congresswoman who represents Guam, but her vote doesn't count in Congress as well.
Right.
So I couldn't wait to vote when I moved to the U.S.
Yeah.
And I just can't imagine how people don't want to take this opportunity to vote.
People who live in Guam, are they U.S. citizens?
Yes.
Okay, so you don't have to apply for citizenship once you move to the rest of the U.S.
Right.
Okay.
Now, do you think Guam should become a state, by the way?
No.
Why?
Yeah, because it's too small. There's not enough population there, right?
No, because it's our resource is federally funded.
Ah.
What is the population of Guam, Mary? You know?
Very small.
Yeah. Do you run into a lot of those tree snakes?
Yes.
A lot of them, really?
Brown snakes.
Brown snakes. Okay, so people who just live there normally, they see them a lot?
Yes.
Well, I don't think I'd want to live there then.
That's why I live in Alaska.
Okay. All right.
Is that really why you moved up here? Just to get away from snakes?
Thank you, Mary. Appreciate it. All right, let's go to David. David, you're on. 569-1080, by the way. David, you're on. You there, David? You hear me?
Hello?
Yes, David. Go ahead.
This is Tom.
Okay, Tom, go ahead.
Hi, Dan. I have to agree with you on the voting.
Yeah.
You know, I just think that if you're not going to be engaged, if you don't care enough to vote, then I'll be willing to bet you're going to vote for some dope smoking hippie anyway, and I really don't want those in.
It's the only way the anti-freedom party wins, because everyone's for freedom. They've got to fool you. And the low information voters is the reason we have Barack Obama and Mark Begich.
That's right. A vote for Begich is a vote for the Obama administration, and we cannot afford 2 more years of any more of him.
David, Tom, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Let's go to David real quick. David, you're on. Are you there, David? We lost David? Okay. All right, we're up against the break. 6:58. Fagan, Biegel, and Bonnie. Bethany Markham in today for Bonnie Cameron. Our number 569-1080.
Documents, preparing them, revising them, and scanning and routing them, and if all goes well, having my client sign them.
With intelligent printers and MFPs, customized apps and services, Kyocera Document Solutions helps you capture, distribute, and manage the many documents that matter.
Legal Documents 101. Now that ought to be a course.
If the document is important, the company is important.
Royal Business Systems has been a leading provider of high-quality business technology and services since 1990. Royal Business Systems provides HP, Okidata, and Kyocera printers and MFPs, and support recognized throughout the industry as class. Come to Royal Business Systems for the total document solution you need to succeed in a competitive marketplace. Don't call 1-800-WHO-CARES. Call Royal Business Systems at 563-4118. That's 563-4118. Or visit us at akcopy.net.
Listen online at 1080KOAN.com. Hot Talk 95.1 FM, 1080 AM, KOAN, Anchorage.
Fox News Radio. I'm Dave Anthony. Convicted in Boston a short time ago. A friend of the marathon bombing suspects.
Robel Filipos was sitting calmly when the jury read the verdict of guilty on 2 counts of lying to the FBI. Each one of those counts carries a sentence of possibly 8 years in a federal prison. The 21-year-old will be sentenced on January 29th.
That's Fox News Radio's Bill Marcus outside the federal court in Boston moments ago. Shokar Sarnayev, the bombing suspect, will go on trial in January and could face the death penalty. The second nurse infected with Ebola in Dallas will no longer be a patient. Fox News Radio's Evan Brown has the update live.
Dave Amber Vinson was the second nurse from Texas Health Presbyterian Hospital in Dallas, who, along with Nina Pham, contracted Ebola while caring for a Liberian man who would die at the facility from the virus. Vinson has been undergoing treatment and care at Emory University Hospital in Atlanta, and she's been declared Ebola-free now. Repeated tests show no trace of the virus in her bloodstream. Vinson is due to leave Emory today. She's even planning to speak publicly this afternoon, like Pham did when she was discharged from a facility in Maryland last week, Dave.
Evan, the nurse who was quarantined in a tent outside a New Jersey hospital out of Ebola concern, is now back in her home state of Maine.
They judged Casey mercilessly.
That's a friend of Casey Hickox, who was isolated after returning from West Africa treating Ebola patients. Maine wants to finish the 21-day quarantine period New Jersey started at her home. Hickox opposes that. What you are hearing, some Hawaiians are fearing. It's hot lava crackling as it slowly moves toward homes on the Big Island. Dozens of residents may have to evacuate, so they'll be allowed to watch if the lava does burn their homes down. Americans are more optimistic about the economy, lifting consumer confidence this month to a 7-year high. The Conference Board, which measures it, says people are more hopeful about the job market. On Wall Street, the Dow's up 40. Fox News Radio, fair and balanced.
America was built by people with a few dollars and a dream. And while many don't know it, there's one path to success that still only requires a dream and about $10. That's right. If your dream is to start or grow your business, something as simple as the right business card could make all the difference. And today at Vistaprint.com, you can get 500 full-color business cards for only $9.99. That's right, only $9.99. Just go to Vistaprint.com and enter promo code 1818 at checkout. That's Vistaprint.com, promo code 1818.
If you're looking for exhilaration, you found it. Whether carving snow or pounding trails, Ski-Doo snowmobiles and KOAN AM ATVs and side-by-sides are engineered to perform and thrill. And right now, during the Yellow Tag event, save up to $2,000 on select models. Plus, get up to a 2-year extended warranty and great financing. Visit Team CC in Eagle River and Wasilla. Offer ends October 31st. Restrictions apply. Subject to credit approval. See dealer for details. For safety and training info, contact the ATV Safety Institute.
Alaska's Energy, America's Values, paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. EnergyandValues.com.
Mark Begich is unbelievable.
Washington thinks it knows what's best for Alaska, and that's what I'm fighting against every day.
Fighting? Begich voted for all Obama's appointments, like Sally Jewell as Secretary of the Interior. Jewell immediately said no to exploration in Anwar and no to a King Cove road. Begich didn't fight Washington. He rolled over, like he rolled over for Obamacare. Now Begich is trying to duck and hide on Obamacare, on oil taxes, on cap and trade, on the IRS scandal, even on Anwar. How can you deliver Anwar, Mark, when Harry Reid says a Democrat-controlled Senate will never allow an Anwar vote? Alaskans can't trust a thing Begich says. It's time to replace Malarkey Mark with U.S. Senator Dan Sullivan.
I'm Mark Begich, running for U.S. Senate, and I approve this message. Paid for by Alaskans for Begich.
Who will protect your privacy rights in the U.S. Senate? Dan Sullivan worked for Condoleezza Rice, one of the architects of the surveillance state. She's in Sullivan's TV ads because he helped implement her agenda that threatens Alaskans' liberty, like extending the Patriot Act that allows the government unlimited access to your personal records. And when Sullivan was with the National Security Council, the NSA authorized warrantless wiretaps of U.S. citizens. Sullivan is bankrolled by the billionaire Koch brothers, who have been manipulating the oil markets for years, driving up gas prices. And Sullivan even opposes the Stand Your Ground law that allows you to defend yourself in your own home. Only 2 candidates oppose the Patriot Act and NSA wiretapping and support Stand Your Ground. And that's Mark Begich and Libertarian Mark Fish. True Alaskans fighting the Dan Sullivan surveillance state.
When I grew up, I wanted to be a pro basketball player.
An elementary school teacher.
Oh, an Olympic gymnast.
No matter what dream you choose or where you are in life, your local Country Financial representative offers helpful advice on everything from auto and home insurance to financial planning, education to retirement, and business insurance too, so that you can continue to grow and dream. For more information, visit countryfinancial.com or call 1-866-COUNTRY. Country Financial. Grow your own way.
Why is A&A the shop, Alaska's independent Subaru specialist? How is it they've been voted the best shop in Anchorage not once but 6 times? Well, it's pretty simple. They offer the best warranty in the business. If they work on your Subaru, you're going to get a 3-year, 36,000-mile warranty on both parts and labor. That's unheard of. A&A the shop deals exclusively with Subarus, and they also offer $35 oil changes. All their technicians are ASE certified. Call A&A the shop for an appointment. 562-3919 in Anchorage and 696-2096 in Eagle River. Hot Talk KOAN, man. You're on with Fagan and Biegel. 1080.
Dan Fagan, Glen Biegel here on KOAN, KVNT. Bethany Markham is filling in for Bonnie Cameron, who's on vacation. Our number 569-1080. Our friends at Chugach Chiropractic, Dr. Myron Swigert, they're so good over there at making you feel healthy and living longer and living better, sleeping better at night, losing weight, anything that has to do with health. It's your one-stop shop, Chugach Chiropractic. They've got a great team over there, state-of-the-art facility, best massage therapists in the state, whether it's reducing pain, whether it's getting adjusted, whether it's learning more about yourself physically. They're the very best. Chugach Chiropractic. Go see Dr. Myron Swigert. He is an amazing fella. 694-2224. 694-9224. 694-9224. Dr. Myron Swigert. Chugach Chiropractic. 569-1080 is our number. 569-1080. I want to get just real quickly, did we finish on this shaming people to go out and vote? Are we done with that? I just think it's so counterproductive. I just hate shame. So many people deal with shame in their life. I do all the time. I hate it. It's debilitating. It shuts you down. It causes you to feel bad about yourself. It hurts your confidence. I just think shame's so destructive. And I can't stand people that employ it. Go ahead.
Just a little can be a motivator, though.
I don't think so.
Really?
I don't think shame motivates. I don't. I just don't. And maybe I'm wrong about that, but I think shame is, I know you say, well, you're not going to do certain things because you'd be ashamed of it. I don't know. I think long-term wise, to live a successful life, making good decisions, I don't think you can do it as a result of shame.
No, that's true. I agree.
Yeah.
Well, look, honor your father and mother. The obvious opposite of that is shaming yourself or your father and mother. And so I don't know how you get around it.
Get around what?
Shame at being part of life, and that you want to avoid it, and that it's critically important for you as a decent human being not to shame other people, not to be shameful yourself, to be decent while you're in public, to treat other people like you want to be treated. There are some things that are absolutely shameful acts, and you want to stop them from being put forth in your presence. I don't consider this to be shame. That's what I don't get. If you are not voting, you need to vote. And people are going to say, look, you're not voting. I don't know why
sending out a letter saying.
I don't know why that's shameful.
So they're sending out a letter saying, you're not voting now.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't vote again, we're going to tell all your neighbors. That's not shaming.
I don't know. I guess I always think of shame as some kind of a moral implication. This has no moral implication. This has to do with your civic duty as a citizen in this country. It is your responsibility to be educated.
We're not talking about
participate.
Whether voting's a good idea.
But if you hadn't voted and you knew that your friends saw that list that showed you hadn't voted, wouldn't you feel a little ashamed?
Well, I'd feel motivated, I guess.
But you wouldn't feel a little ashamed?
I don't know. I'm still trying to work out. I'm still trying to work out here because shame, in my point of view, always has to do with decency. This doesn't have anything to do with decency. If you don't want to be a citizen, and many people don't want to be a citizen in this country, they don't want to participate at all civically, and they don't care. They could care less whether or not they voted. They could care less whether or not they know who's running for office or who the vice president is or anything else.
I remember I
just don't care.
Craig Medred on my old show on KFQD, and he announced to the public that he never votes.
Really? I didn't know that.
I mean, the phones lit up, and he got destroyed. I didn't have an open line for an hour. Of course it's shaming.
Yeah.
Of course it's shaming.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, if you're a good person, you're gonna feel a little shamed if you haven't voted.
And that's because you put a moral value on voting?
Love a country. It's your civic duty. You gotta look. That's not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. That's by John Kennedy.
Mm-hmm.
That everybody feels a sense of, this is my country. I must contribute. I must give back something. And at this point, the best thing you can do, frankly, is to vote.
So if you don't do your duty to your country, you can be shamed for that. Okay, I can accept that.
To say that these guys who are putting these letters out are not intentionally trying to shame people, honestly, Glenn, you really can't believe that.
Well, no, I will restate my position again. Shame to me has always had to do with a moral error. I don't consider not voting to be a moral error. If you don't know who you're voting for, Bethany, you just made this point earlier.
So you don't think the people who are sending this letter are trying to shame people?
I've never thought of shame in any non-moral sense.
So you don't think the people who are trying to send out this letter are trying to shame people?
No, I think they're trying to get them to vote.
By shaming them?
By letting people know that these people are not participating in their civic duty. And
By shaming them.
They're not full citizens.
By shaming them into voting.
Yeah, I guess that's the way most people would say it. I just have never thought of it that way.
Well, you're a little bit odd in that sense.
Yeah, I guess so. That's okay.
You still there?
I don't mind.
Yes? Okay. 569-1080. 569-1080. Let's go to Tom. Tom, you're on.
Good morning,
Morning.
Dan and Glenn, Bethany. You were talking earlier about people should not be paid to vote. And, and there is moral outrage, and I agree with you. People should never be paid.
Tom, did we pass some laws which said that the native corporations couldn't pay their members to go vote?
I don't remember for certain. I would have to look that up. But my next point is yes, there should be moral outrage when you're paid to vote. But you go to the Anchorage Assembly meeting and you see people being paid to vote. Those 11 people. Look at there's evidence. There's the assemblyman that had his phone rang because he sat the wrong way in his car, and Alan Teshi recorded the conversation, and the guy claimed to have delivered bags of cash to the assembly people to get their vote.
Was that Dan Coffey and was it Bill Starr?
I believe so.
Yeah.
I can't remember for sure,
Yeah,
but
that's who it was.
but always there is either deliver bags of cash or you bring you and 20 friends to the Anchorage Assembly meeting, and you can get the votes. You're paying the Anchorage Assembly to vote your way, one way or another, either by bringing a bunch of friends with you and giving them the evil eye during the testimony, or, and that's happened a lot lately, where there's a group that has packed the assembly halls. One, nobody will testify against their position, and two, the Anchorage Assembly generally votes in their favor if there's enough people. And then, there's an awful lot of times where, like the cab industry, they're going to try to keep Uber out of Anchorage, and it's well known that they spend a lot of money on elections.
Hey, Tom, can you hold on to the
Sure.
break? I want to ask you about this.
Okay.
Because I know you follow the city better than anybody probably in the city, and I want to ask you about the mayor's race and Uber and all that.
Okay.
Stay with us, 714, Dan Fagan, Glen Biegel, Bethany Markham for Bonnie, KOAN, KVNT. KOAN, KVNT.
You're on with Fagan and Biegel. Give him a call, 569-1080, KOAN.
And I approve this message.
These negative ads are everywhere.
Yeah, I stopped listening and did my own research.
Yeah, what did you find? Well, I found I really like Dan Sullivan.
Well, I know he served in the Marines for 20 years, and he'll fight against President Obama and Democrats in Washington to protect my Second Amendment rights.
Yeah, and did you know when he was our Attorney General, he worked to put an end to violence against women, defended the constitutionality of Alaska's Parental Notification Initiative Act, and sued the federal government to stop Obamacare.
I like that. What else you got?
Well, as a veteran himself, he's dedicated to fixing the problems plaguing Obama's VA, and he'll fight to ensure they get all the benefits they've earned.
Dan Sullivan. I'm sold.
Me too.
Dan Sullivan, a principled leader for Alaska. Dan Sullivan for U.S. Senate. Paid for by Allen West Guardian Fund, which is responsible for the content of this advertising. AllenWestGuardianFund.com. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
I'm a Democrat for Marty McGee.
I'm a Republican for Marty.
Tea Party for Marty McGee.
I'm undeclared and I'm voting Marty McGee.
A chorus of voices from all walks of life is rising in support of Marty McGee. Marty is inspiring voters to stand up and say, we know he'll do the right thing. Arliss Sturgeluski, Heather Flynn, Tim Steele, and 24 organizations statewide all support Marty McGee. Faye Von Gemmingen is a Republican. She and her husband, Pat, an independent, both support Marty McGee.
Marty has the backbone to stand up to special interests.
He's done that in the past, and his moral compass is perfectly tuned.
I'm Harold Wolverton. Marty is the one I want to represent me.
This is Marty McGee, and I am truly humbled by the show of support for my campaign. I'll work hard in Juneau to earn your respect by being fair to all sides and really listening to what's important to you.
Paid for by Marty McGee for State House, Anchorage.
I'm Bill Walker, candidate for governor. Sean Parnell declared an education session of the legislature, but ended up laying off teachers. He denied health insurance to thousands of Alaskans. He drove Alaska into deficit spending, and your energy costs are still sky high. My administration will make public education a funding priority. I'll act on the recommendation of the State Chamber of Commerce and other organizations by accepting Medicaid expansion so thousands of uninsured Alaskans can have basic health care coverage, as long as it's fully federally funded. I'll bring Alaskans together to solve Parnell's budget deficit mess. I know what it will take to complete a gas line to benefit all of Alaska. And until that project comes online, I'll focus attention and resources on lowering your energy costs. We're nonpartisan. We're all Alaskans. Let's work together. Alaska first. It's time.
Paid for by Walker and Malott for Alaska.
Dan Sullivan stands up for Alaskans. As Attorney General, he sued the federal government to stop Obamacare. In the U.S. Senate, Dan Sullivan will fight to repeal and replace the president's health care law and ensure decisions are made by patients and doctors, not Washington bureaucrats. Dan Sullivan for U.S. Senate.
Mark Begich claims he is an independent, but in Washington, he supports the president 97% of the time, voting for Obamacare that cost thousands of Alaskans their health coverage and created over $800 billion in new taxes for the rest of us. But it gets worse. While he cast the deciding vote for Obamacare, Mark Begich then voted to give his own office a special exemption and a taxpayer-funded subsidy for their health insurance. Mark Begich voting 97% of the time with President Obama, which is 100% wrong for Alaska. Paid for by the Cooperative of American Physicians Independent Expenditure Committee, which is responsible for the content of this advertising. www.capphysicians.com. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
You're on with Fagan on Hot Talk KOAN and online at 1080KOAN.com.
All right, 7:19. Dan Fagan, Glen Biegel, Bonnie Cameron is out. She's on vacation. Bethany Markham filling in. We're broadcasting on KOAN, KVNT. Our number 569-1080. Tom McGrath on the phone with us. Tom, give me your sense of this mayoral race coming up. Who's running? Who do you like? Who's the favorite?
Well, Dan Coffey's running, and the assembly person,
Amy
Dembowski from Eagle River. And then, of course, Patrick Flynn's name's been bandied about, Dick Cheney.
What about Halcrow?
And, of course, it seems like Halcrow's running. There's rumors that he took the job with the chamber just so that he could position himself and get the press that he needed to get his name out there. So,
what about Treadwell?
I've not really heard that. even though I wouldn't be surprised.
Who do you like in the bunch?
Right now, I'm supporting Coffee, but of course that was early on. Nobody else except for Amy Dembowski has actually thrown her hat into the ring. I like Amy, but she's only been on the assembly for a year. I think that she probably has a lot to learn yet. But getting back to, say the mayor's office, and we were talking about people being paid to vote. When the mayor is elected, he gets to appoint, or she gets to appoint, 400 people to different positions. It's called patronage.
Yeah.
And in the state of Alaska, the governor gets to appoint a lot more people than that.
About 1,900.
Is that what it is? 1,900.
Yeah, up to that many. I mean, you don't have to appoint that many, but you can.
And when Mark Begich was the mayor, he was the master at this. I mean, he had a spokesman at the health department. He had a spokesman pretty much
Mark
everywhere.
Butler. Yeah.
I mean, Mark Butler,
Yeah.
sure. And but
can you imagine? Tom, can you imagine going to work? Can you imagine going to work every day as the spokesperson for the health department? Let me tell you something. If you don't have a lot of games on your computer, your life would be hell.
Oh, it would be. So people say you can't be paid to vote, but wait a minute. We're paying for people's votes all the time, whether we think about it or not. With the contribution we make, and if we make enough contributions, then we get a $150,000 a year job. And you look at the people that are appointed to these positions. Some of them are really qualified. They are qualified for a job that would pay 5 times as much as what they're being paid. And to those people, I applaud them. Then there's other people that this is the highest pay they will ever receive because they're not qualified to do anything. It's a sad situation. But having traveled the world, it's the best system that there is in the world.
Is Coffee, back to the mayor's race, is Coffee a conservative?
No.
So why are you supporting him?
He's very knowledgeable about the way government works, and we need somebody in there that is knowledgeable about the way government works. It's a big job. Like with Dan Sullivan running the mayor's office, he basically ran a couple of departments, and George Vikalis, the city manager, who is called for in the municipal code or in the municipal charter, he ran the other 18 departments. And I think with Dan Coffey, he actually has the background to run more of the departments.
But if he's not a free market conservative,
he is to the most extent.
He's trying to block Uber.
No, well, Dan Coffey, because he has worked for the cab industries.
Well, I mean, right there, that's a big problem, isn't it?
But everybody has something like that in their, they have had to work for somebody.
Well, I agree with you. Amy Dembowski's just, I
really like Amy.
I'm sure she's wonderful, but she's been around 20 minutes. You can't put her in as mayor. Isn't there anybody out there who's a conservative? What about Meade? I mean, I know people say, well, Meade's not really a conservative. He's certainly more of one than Dan Coffey.
But has Meade really been involved on the municipal level? Does he know who all the players are? And Dan Coffey, to his credit, has spent the last year every single day that he's in town visiting different people and departments, just really figuring out how Anchorage works.
Why don't you run?
Well, under the state code and APOC rules, I would have to divulge my complete customer list to be able to run.
Are you serious?
And no, that's why a lot of business people can't run. A lot of lawyers can't run.
Crazy.
And I ran for Anchorage Assembly about 12 years ago, before those laws took effect. But had I been elected and then the laws took effect, I would have probably had to resign.
I just don't understand how we can't get a conservative to run. What about somebody in the legislature?
Well,
Brenda's mayor.
We've talked to like Kevin Meyer. He was on the Anchorage Assembly for a long time.
Perfect.
Kevin, I think would be a very good mayor. very ethical person. Just has done a tremendous job as an assemblyman. And I look back at when he was on the assembly, and there was John Wood, there was Craig Campbell. John Wood's probably one of my favorite assembly people of all time, because he was smart enough he could actually write an ordinance on the fly that would withstand muster.
Well,
and
let me ask you this, Tom.
Sure.
If let's say a guy named Glen Biegel were to run for mayor, would you support him? Would you give him money?
If Glenn could show me that he has really done the due diligence so that he knew what was going on, and I think Glenn has, because with his radio show he hears an awful lot from day to day.
Can you imagine what an impact it would have on the city of Anchorage to have a guy like Glen Biegel, with his integrity, with his total and complete devotion to freedom and the free market, and his stance on social issues? Can you imagine? I mean, Dan Sullivan was about as good as we get, but can you imagine Glen Biegel as mayor of Anchorage?
You know, the problem with Glenn running for mayor would be the same as Anand Dubé running for the legislature. The biggest criticism I've heard of Anand, who would be incredibly good as a legislator, is that he's too conservative.
Well, Dan Sullivan was pretty conservative.
Not near as conservative as Glenn or Anand.
Oh, well, then where would Dan Sullivan and Glenn disagree?
I think that Dan, is kind of, he hasn't done as good a job as I would have liked.
Where? Give me an example of something that Dan Sullivan did.
One of the things that I talked to him at length at before he was elected was that we really need to divest ourselves of all the businesses in Anchorage. That Anchorage is
privatize more stuff.
Privatized.
Yeah.
And he hasn't really made any progress in that area.
Yeah, but he took that's obviously the unions totally going to a hissy fit, but
and also then in public works, the building permit area.
Yeah.
He really hasn't made progress in that area.
Streamline it more.
Oh, and the first thing is, the first action that any mayor should take is fire Jerry Weaver. Jesus.
Jerry Weaver is what?
He's the head of the public works department or not public works, but the building permit department out there, and it is so screwed up that even the liberals are telling the Anchorage Assembly that the reason that we can't build housing in Anchorage is we have too much regulation.
Wow.
And we continue to add regulation, so we can't build an affordable house in Anchorage. It's there's just a lot of different problems, but like getting back to the voters that are paid to vote.
Yeah.
Everybody's on the take. Everybody's got their hand in somebody's back pocket, and it just seems that we're in gridlock. And maybe Dan Coffey, because he's got a lot of money and wouldn't have to worry about that, maybe he's the guy. But on the other hand, maybe Amy Dabowski's the person, because she hasn't been bought and paid for.
I didn't even know who she was till about 3 weeks ago.
Well, she's been around for, I don't know, 10 years, probably 10 years or so that I've known her.
But not in any kind of office.
Well, she was on the Budget Advisory Commission for a couple of years.
Seriously.
Then she was on the Assembly has been for 2 years.
Yeah, well, I guess I was gone a year and a half, so that's why I missed her. But
sure.
Tom, you know what? We're out of time. We got to take a break.
Have a good day. Take care.
Thank you, Tom McGrath. Thank you. Appreciate it. 729, Biegel for Mayor, 2014. Campaign starts here, 729.
Of Anchorage, the best or nothing.
From the Fox Business Network, stocks are trading higher as investors look over more corporate earnings and wait for tomorrow's policy statement from the Federal Reserve. The central bank could offer some clues about when it plans to start raising interest rates as it winds down its bond buying program. At around 11 a.m. Eastern, the Dow Industrials are up 40 points. Americans are more upbeat about the economy. The conference board says its consumer confidence index rose to a 7-year high on a more positive view of the job market. And shares of Amgen are rallying. The drug maker says it will cut more jobs, buy back $2 billion worth of stock, and raise its quarterly dividend by 30%. Amgen reported better than expected third quarter results yesterday. And AutoNation has stopped selling vehicles equipped with Takata airbags that are subject to a massive recall. Nearly 8 million cars are being called back to replace airbags, which the government says could explode and hurt drivers. With the Fox Business Report, I'm Jolene Kent.
Hey guys, if you're into fantasy football, you've got to check out FanDuel.com. At FanDuel, you play in 1-week fantasy football leagues for real money with immediate cash payouts. You only play when you want, and you can change your team any week. FanDuel is paying out over $10 million every week this season. And right now, FanDuel is giving you up to $200 free. That's right. For every dollar you deposit, FanDuel will match it up to $200. Just go to FanDuel.com, click the microphone in the upper right corner, and enter code 5544. FanDuel.com, code 5544.
With KOAN News, I'm Chuck White. Charges are being pressed against the Soldotna man who's accused of holding a woman hostage for several days and repeatedly assaulting her. The woman was rescued on October 16th after state police say they responded to Charles Brady's residence off the Kenai Spur Highway and found the badly injured victim. As Ann Kender reports, candidates for governor traded barbs during a recent debate.
Independent candidate Bill Walker painted a picture of Governor Parnell as someone who was slow to respond to allegations that the Alaska National Guard allows a culture of sexual assault. Parnell disputed that charge and questioned whether Walker got a special deal from Democrats when he joined forces with Byron Mallett, who's running for lieutenant governor.
With a week to go until the election, a new Republican group has launched a blitz of TV ads opposing independent gubernatorial candidate Bill Walker. The group Citizens Against Walker is spending 6 figures on the ads. That's your Hot Talk News update.
Partial sunshine for today, high 30. For tonight, mostly clear skies and cold, low 15. Partly sunny tomorrow, high 32. Wednesday night, low 19. Thursday, sunshine and clouds, high 32. Friday, cloudy, high 33. Hot Talk, breaking news, and the latest weather. KOAN 95.1 FM and 1080 AM.
Paid for by Gruenberg for State House Committee, Anchorage.
Energy and commitment for Northeast Anchorage. That's Max Gruenberg. For us, he's the next best thing to being a legislator ourselves.
Hi, I'm Max Gruenberg. I'm proud to represent you in the Alaska Legislature, and I'm proud of what we've done together. I go to our community councils, to our schools, and to your doors. When you speak, I listen.
When I asked you to protect our elders, you passed the Silver Alert Bill. That will help us locate missing seniors and other vulnerable adults.
When I asked you to make our streets safer, you authored the laws that prohibited viewing DVDs and texting while driving, and got funding to build a new sidewalk on Boniface.
And Max helped us get 2 new fire stations and a rescue boat in Crook Inlet.
And when we wanted to be sure there was a warm place for our pets at the animal shelter, you helped make it happen.
I'm Max Gruenberg. I'd like you and your pet's support on November 4th.
Gabrielle Ledoux is running for State House for all the right reasons. Her opponent is promising to do what Ledoux is already doing. Gabrielle walks her talk. She believes in results over rhetoric. Walking door to door, year after year, Gabrielle Ledoux knows that it's what local residents want that matters. As your representative, Gabrielle Ledoux continues to fight for funding for good roads and public safety. Gabrielle Ledoux fought for the local parks that we all value and that our families all use. Gabrielle Ledoux fought for responsible school funding to make sure our children are prepared to compete for jobs and for responsible economic decisions to make sure job opportunities exist.
I'm Gabrielle Ledoux. I've worked hard to represent East Anchorage and J-Bear, and I'd appreciate your continued support.
Paid for by Ledoux for State House, 8859 Cross Point Loop, Anchorage, 99504.
Glen Biegel, you have beautiful teeth.
Why, thank you, Dan Fagan. That's because my family and I have gone to Dr. Dan Kiley for years.
I get scared at the dentist.
Dr. Kiley knows people like you are afraid, so he creates a relaxed atmosphere at his office. People actually like going to the dentist for Dr. Kiley.
I know it's important to have good dental health.
And you look better with good teeth. And Dr. Kiley offers cosmetic dentistry along with general care.
Visit Dr. Dan Kiley at lakeotisdental.com. Call him at 562-9209.
You're on with Fagan and Biegel in the morning. Give them a call. 80 KOAN.
Yeah, that's those were the good old days. 7:35 in the morning.
Good new days.
Dan Fagan, Glen Biegel, Bethany Markham filling in for Bonnie Cameron, who is in Hawaii, and she is listening. I guarantee you, she will. She might not listen live. She may go to the YouTube page and watch the archive, but I can promise you, she will not miss a second of the broadcast while she's in Hawaii.
Yeah.
She's probably got her little app on her phone, the KOAN app. Don't you agree? You know Bonnie pretty well.
I think she's definitely listening, if not now, but will be later. So
yeah,
even
she
on
can
her
join
vacation.
us on the video part, and we could wave at her.
That's right.
Bethany doesn't know her any better than we do.
Oh, is that right?
No, I don't.
I don't really know her that well.
No, I don't either. Actually, who is she?
No, she's wonderful. She's great.
Yeah, she's great.
Yeah,
she is great.
569-1080. You wanted to give a plug tonight for something, Bethany?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that for anybody who thinks hunting and fishing is important or enjoys doing those things in Alaska, tonight at the King Career Center on Northern Lights, there's going to be an election for the Anchorage Fish and Game Advisory Committee. It's very important because if we don't have people who are pro-hunting and fishing come out, we're going to have the Greenies come out and try to take over that committee as they tried in the past.
And what would they do if they took it over?
They would try to a couple different things.
They
They would
predator control.
Yes, they would definitely try to do that. They would also try to change the way that the Board of Game is made up so that it's not made up of those users who actually hunt as opposed to those who like to just take photos. So that's kind of the direction they try to push.
So they try to shut down hunting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I think they changed the way that, like, we had a bunch of predators here in Anchorage for a while, and I don't know if that's governed by the city or by this group or what, because there was a change in policy at some point.
Well, the state always governs those sorts of things, but these groups, these advisory committees, advise the boards of game and the boards of fish as far as what policies they believe.
Well, so it's just an advisory board.
It is, but it's an important because this is where the proposals originate.
But
from
nobody
these boards.
listens to advisory
Oh
boards.
these proposals. Alaska has a very unique process for the way it institutes regulations for fish and game, and they come from these advisory boards. Absolutely.
But can't the board overwrite the advisory board? They don't have any.
Well, there's
power.
I don't know how many, but there's like maybe 100 of these advisory boards in every community around the state,
Right.
and so they all come together at the big board of game and board of fish meetings, and then they vote upon and modify and choose.
Oh,
which
so
ones are
they
gonna
do
be
get
best.
to vote.
Absolutely.
Oh, it's not. They don't just advise.
Well, no, they don't vote. The board of game votes,
Yeah,
but
so
they.
the board of game,
But that's-
whatever ideological bent each board member has, they're going to vote accordingly. They don't give a rat's ass about these advisory boards.
But they don't write the proposals and such. They come from either the Fish and Game Department or from these advisory committees. So they have to come from somewhere, and they come from the people. And that's the beauty of our process, is that people themselves can be involved in the process and write the proposals.
So you think a guy who sits on the real board, the voting board, who thinks predator control is crucial, he would say no predator control because a bunch of advisory boards tell him?
Yeah, I mean.
He would violate his own beliefs?
Well, there are some people who would. So, but the problem is that they eventually end up getting control, and those they like I said, they're going to try to change the makeup of the board of game, who are the ones who vote.
How can they do that?
Bill Walker?
No, we're talking about the
Byron
advisory
Malott?
boards. No, we're talking about the advisory boards. How can the advisory boards affect who's on the main voting board?
Well, these are called farm leagues or farm teams. A lot of times people get appointed from these,
But whoever
lesser committees.
appoints is going to appoint based on his or her ideology, not the advisory boards.
A lot of times, though, what happened at the assembly, for instance, we let a whole bunch of liberal assembly members in, and many of them
These are
became
not advisory boards.
Many of them became legislators.
Yeah, but these are voting people. I just don't think advisory boards mean much.
Oh, I disagree. I think particularly because we have a very unique process. Like I said, I don't know if you know much about the process that Alaska has for.
Well, I know advisory
fishing game.
boards have no power.
Yeah, but
all they can do is advise.
But our ACs for Fish and Game are
AC.
different. Advisory committees are different than advisory boards for like the municipality and such, in my opinion.
So the advisory committees, can they vote and have binding votes, or is it they're voting on more advice?
They'd vote within their committee as far as
Right.
what proposals.
And what happens with that vote?
As far as that determines what proposals and such go forward to the Board
Right.
of Game and Board of Fish.
And then the Board
as
of
well as
Game
individual people
can
can
do anything
bring
at
those too.
once.
So ultimately, but so can the Department of Fish and Game.
Yeah, exactly. So it's the people who have the power that matter, not these advisory committees.
No, I disagree.
My personal opinion about advisory committees, and look, I've covered government in 4 states. It's all just to make people feel like they're part of the process, but they have very little power.
I think they can sway the way that the community is thinking and hearing about these issues. Very much so.
They can sway the community. How do they sway the community?
By bringing these issues to the forefront, as far as what issue, which way should be direction? Should we go toward more predator control or less predator control? They can keep the dialogue going.
How do they sway the community? Does the community go to these advisory committee meetings?
Oh, absolutely. Anybody can go to them. I've been to many of them.
Really? And what's the largest crowd that's ever been to one of these?
We had over 300 at one.
That's not the community. We have 750,000 people in the state. The media sways the community. The advisory committee may try to sway the board that counts, but I just don't think most board members are going to violate what they believe is right because of some advisory committee.
I still want people to go to vote tonight at 6:30. You can vote and then leave. You don't actually have to stay.
I shot down your plug. I apologize. I'm just very ornery and stubborn and
I've been ornery too
contradictory.
lately, last few days.
Yeah.
You've noticed. Dan's noticed.
No, you have. You have been off your game. Not off your game, but you've been a little. I think I bring that into the studio sometimes. Like yesterday.
I want to remind you about hope.
Yeah, I know. Yesterday I was in such a bad mood, and I bring that, and that's why I hate. Sometimes I just really don't think I'm qualified to do this show, because when I come in here in a bad mood, I project that. It affects Glenn. It affects whoever else is sitting in here. Brian is not affected by anything because he's always happy.
He's got glass between
I think
you
he's drinking back there.
Pisses me off to no end. But when I come in here in a bad mood and I start spewing my junk, then everybody picks up on that. It ruins their day. So
that's where Bonnie provides the balance for you.
No, she's worse. She's like. But no,
bless Bonnie.
I have come to. I have realized. This is what I've come to realize about being a talk show host. It is such a privilege, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity. I cannot, look, I love doing it. I love being able to share what I believe is true, and it's such an honor, but it's also a great responsibility. And, even if we don't have the biggest audience in the world, and I don't know how many people are listening because we have not gotten our ratings book. We're in ratings now. We'll get the report out in January. I mean, we could have 30,000, we could have 300. I honestly don't know. We will know, but it's just important, I think, to understand personally that I need to get my crap together, because if I come in here and I'm spewing junk and hopelessness and judgment and negativity, like I'm just putting down your little advisory board friends, that's
I call them little again.
Yeah.
Deeper and deeper.
He's apologizing.
Can I give you a bigger shovel over there, because you're doing just fine. They're a little piddly, if I may call them piss-ass. You're
a little piddly, non-important, non-relevant advisory board friends.
Thanks, Dan.
But I need to really get my act together. I really do, because it's a big deal, and I'm not. Look, one thing that we
you could redeem yourself by voting tonight.
Oh, there we go. I'm gonna go. Well, look, what Bethany tells me to do, I often will do, just because she's got her pulse. There are a lot of people who look to me, ask me advice. Who should I vote? What should I do here and there? And I'll put in some extra effort in order to do that. I've got to get something together on judges, by the way.
We're running out of time.
But Bethany's one of the people I listen to. When she says this is an important vote, I say, all right. She's plugged in a lot better than I am. I'm going to go vote.
569-1080, 744 is the time. 569-1080, 744 is the time.
Hot Talk KOAN and online at 1080KOAN.com.
Here's my good friend Keith Monternock.
Automotive repairs can be frustrating. Let me help. Call 349-1637. I have been in business for nearly 20 years at the same location. Specialty Truck and Auto is in South Anchorage behind the Long Branch Saloon where Diamond becomes Abbott. I have 6 ASE certified technicians working from 7 a.m. until 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. I have a voucher for any of the 6 Alaska Laser Wash locations for each customer. If you schedule ahead and need a ride when you drop your vehicle off, I may be able to help. Call Specialty Truck and Auto 349-1637.
I'm Mark Begich, running for U.S. Senate, and I approve this message. Paid for by Alaskans for Baggage.
Who will protect your privacy rights in the U.S. Senate? Dan Sullivan worked for Condoleezza Rice, one of the architects of the surveillance state. She's in Sullivan's TV ads because he helped implement her agenda that threatens Alaskans' liberty, like extending the Patriot Act that allows the government unlimited access to your personal records. And when Sullivan was with the National Security Council, the NSA authorized warrantless wiretaps of U.S. citizens. Sullivan is bankrolled by the billionaire Koch brothers, who have been manipulating the oil markets for years, driving up gas prices. And Sullivan even opposes the Stand Your Ground law that allows you to defend yourself in your own home. Only 2 candidates oppose the Patriot Act and NSA wiretapping and support Stand Your Ground. And that's Mark Begich and Libertarian Mark Fish. True Alaskans fighting the Dan Sullivan surveillance state.
Harry Crawford looks to be...
That's it. Your time is up.
I'm Senator Kathy Giesel. It's time to set the record straight. Only in an election year would you hear someone paint a $52 million funding increase as a cut in education funding. Only in an election year would you hear that a $2 billion cut was actually a budget increase. Only in an election year would you hear someone claim they work hard to keep your energy bills low. All the while, Harry Crawford's first vote on the Chugach Electric Board was to vote himself a raise. It's reflective of a candidate who has no record of accomplishments, no ideas, and no desire to serve you. Alaskans deserve better than that. I'm Senator Kathy Giesel, and I'll continue to do the hard work necessary to improve education outcomes, keep energy costs low, and make sure generations of Alaskans will have the jobs they need. That's my no-nonsense promise to you. Paid for by re-elect Senator Kathy Giesel, Anchorage.
I'm Charlie Huggins, Alaska Senate President.
And I'm Becky Huggins.
We've known Sean Parnell for years. We're proud to call him a friend.
Sean's a man of integrity. He fights every day for our families and our state.
Sean's a strong leader. He stands up to federal overreach and defends our Second Amendment rights. Sean fights for Alaska.
As a veteran, I appreciate Sean's support for our military here in Alaska and overseas. He looks out for our men and women in uniform and for our veterans.
Sean Parnell is a true conservative for governor. I've worked with Sean in the legislature. He brings people together with strong, steady leadership that gets results.
Thanks to Sean, our economy is strong and we're on track for a gas pipeline. Governor Sean Parnell is good for the Mat-Su and good for Alaska.
Please join us in supporting Sean Parnell for governor on November the 4th.
Paid for by Parnell Sullivan 2014 for Alaska's future.
This is Dr. Ellenberg. Are you tired of taking medications? Do your medications create more side effects than solutions? Do you want more than 15 minutes with your doctor? If you answer yes to those questions, you should consider calling the Ellenberg Center for Natural Medicine. At our center, we take the time to listen and focus on finding the cause of your health problems. Whether you have a cold, high blood pressure, diabetes, or cancer, we can help. Call the Ellenberg Center for Natural Medicine at 563-2366 or visit us online at drellenberg.com. We can help.
Hot Talk KOAN, man. You're on with Fagan and Biegel. 1080.
All right, welcome back. Dan Fagan, Glen Biegel. Bethany Markham's in for Bonnie Cameron today. Keith Monternock, who is a hunter and a fisherman his own self, is also the owner of Specialty Truck and Auto. He's a mechanic you can trust. He loves our country. He loves our veterans. He dedicates his life to not only providing you with great automobile repair service, but serving our military. He puts on that big combat fishing tournament for our troops every year. He's a wonderful man, one of the best men you'll ever meet. If you need a mechanic you trust, Go see Keith Montanuk, Specialty Truck and Auto, right across the street from the Long Branch Saloon off of Abbott. His number is 349-1637. 349-1637. 10 minutes ahead of 8 o'clock. Not that I want to spend a lot of time on cows and mooses, but so you're saying this advisory committee that I say has no power but to advise can block a cow and moose hunt?
I don't know about blocking, but they can authorize. They have to authorize a cow moose hunt, apparently.
So that's blocking, because if I want to go kill a cow and a moose...
No, you can't generally kill a cow and a moose,
Right,
so they have to specifically authorize one. The only time they would do that is if there was an overpopulation within a city area, for instance.
And so the advisory committee, not Fish and Game, would determine whether there should be a cow and moose hunt.
The advisory committee has to give authorization, apparently.
So they can block it. If Fish
To
and
the
Game
Board of
says,
Game.
if the Board of Game says we need a cow and moose hunt, they have to get approval from the advisory committee.
It probably comes from the advisory committee first, then goes to the board.
Yes, I would believe that would be the proper.
The advisory committee can initiate it. That's
Yes,
fine.
that's it.
Obviously. But my question is, because this is where the power is, can the Board of Game call for a cow and moose hunt, and can the advisory committee say, no, Board of Game, we're going to override you?
Board of Game can't authorize a cow moose hunt without the permission of that local advisory committee that's being affected.
So they can block it. So that advisory committee is inaccurately labeled, because it is not an advisory committee.
It's a decision-making body.
I don't know that. I can't imagine that's true.
Here's my thought on this, by the way, is we got 6 qualified candidates who are running for these positions. They're willing to give up their time for something that they see as a good role to play in their civic duty. And I want to support them.
And it's just what we were talking about,
6
as far as getting people involved in the process.
6 conservatives want to be on the advisory committee for the Department of Fish and Game for our local area, and heck, that's fantastic.
Just for the record, ladies and gentlemen, I want to make sure that my audience is very clear that we as a show are not reporting that any advisory committee has veto power. That's what some people here in the studio have heard, but it's very important that we're accurate. And I want you to know we have not verified that for the first time in the history of advisory committees have veto power. So just please, if you're taking notes at home and you're developing your knowledge of civics based on this broadcast, I want to put that caveat in there.
Well, we should rename them advisory and veto authority committees.
But they're not. They're advisory committees.
But they're not.
Have you ever been on an advisory committee?
A veto authority. No, I find them, especially ones which have to do with the budget, particularly for the school district.
I've been on about 5 or 6 of them. You've probably been on 100 of them.
No.
No?
I haven't.
Yeah, they're useless. You just stand there and give you advice, and then you go to the assembly or the school board or whatever, and they say, no, we're not going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But this is our advice. Yeah, well, thanks anyway.
Thanks anyway. Well, what I found they try to do with the school district,
Bethany.
from what I've heard, is basically you go in there, they don't give you any of the options which a conservative would want.
Well, Carol Como put me on a budget advisory committee.
And this came
that
from
was
you
your
too,
experience then. That's why.
Well, no, I've had several. I was on the public. Mark Begich put me on the public safety advisory committee. And I've been on a bunch of them. But Carol, when you sit there, so we had to take the Department of Administration. That was our department we were supposed to cut. And every time that there was a cut, she just, I'm sorry, the unions won't let you do that. Okay.
Okay.
And then, here's another cut. I'm sorry, the federal government that violates. We have to give up federal money if we don't do that.
Yeah.
So literally, there's nothing you can cut.
Nope.
So
it's a pretty good game.
Yeah.
I keep telling my wife that about my budget, but she doesn't buy it. I don't know why that is. My personal.
But guess what? The animals don't have unions, so.
Well, and good thing she doesn't touch the McDonald's budget.
I want to,
especially with the brilliant realization that I had today, Brian.
Sometimes this show is at its best during the commercial break. When you guys were out gallivanting, getting your beverages and Pop-Tarts or whatever it is you were doing, Brian and I Brian made some points that I thought was very interesting. And I hope you don't mind. You mind if I bring this up?
No, go ahead.
You told me that you used to be a really enthusiastic, involved student of politics and current events and political philosophy, right?
Yeah.
Until about what year?
Late 2008.
And you used to, how would you educate yourself on up to 2008? Where would you get your information? And
I would listen to the Dan Fagan show.
Wow.
Pretty much any other shows. I listen to a lot of talk radio.
Right.
And I would watch, a lot of news. Not only just watch their slant on it, go read about it on my own. I like to go to the Drudge Report, places like that.
Gotcha.
Which I'm sure people think that's very, biased news, but I did go to other sources.
So then something changed.
Yeah.
What changed?
I guess I became a little disappointed that after the election in 2008.
Which one was that? Was that the Joe Miller one? Or no?
Obama?
Yeah, I was thinking more nationally.
McCain. Okay, yeah, I mean, basically after McCain went down and sold us all out down in Washington, D.C., authorizing the TARP.
Well, I felt like a lot of people had just been tricked a little bit.
With Obama?
Yeah.
Okay, and so at that point you did what then?
I just lost a little interest, and I had to step back a little bit, so it didn't hurt so bad.
And so it really affected you, the Obama election?
Yeah, a little bit.
Because it seemed pretty obvious to you.
It's not really that I wanted McCain, because I didn't really like him, but I just thought, oh no, here we go.
See, that's so funny, Brian, because you've been on the show with us since how long have you been on the show now?
Since day one.
July.
I know, but I knew you said one.
Well, June 30th.
So how many months have you been doing the show?
June, let's see, July, August, September, October, 4 months.
I had no idea you were a conservative.
Oh, really?
Oh, really?
I honestly didn't.
Wow.
Couldn't tell by my hat.
What's it say?
Well, it's just hockey hat.
Oh. So then what did you substitute other things for your love for politics, and did you start listening to music more, or did you watch movies more, or did you
well, I have a business, so and my business is music, so I do a lot of that anyway.
Yeah.
So I've got a lot of great hobbies, but I would say I maybe switched from news to more entertainment.
Now, where are you now in all this? Obviously you're working with us, so your interest has peaked a little bit.
We'll see after this next one in a couple of weeks.
Really?
So for him, it's about who wins.
Well, I want to see if maybe we're making a difference. I don't know.
Yeah, so if Baggage and Walker win, it's going to hit you pretty hard?
Well, I'm going to feel the same way as I did before, where maybe a lot of people just, I'm going to just do what they said, not even think about it.
Yeah. Well, there is that, Glenn. We believe this stuff. We live this stuff, and it's important to us. It's not just opinion. It's more than that, right?
No, I definitely agree, because I was where he is now before 2008. We switched roles apparently in 2008, because I couldn't have told you anything about anything in politics before 2008. Nothing.
And then when Obama won, you realized I got to wake up.
It was a little before that, but yeah, more or less. There was definitely a correlation there.
Yeah, and my dedication actually has been to save the Republican Party for years. I mean, that is my driving force, because I know that in their old configuration, they just weren't going to survive as a sort of a let's go slow Democrats. That isn't going to work. As a let's design society from Washington, D.C., and we're going to tell every state how to work. That isn't going to work. I mean, and there's a lot of work to be done. So that's been my driving force for a long period of time, and I do believe that if we are going to have a strong alternative to the Democrats, it's going to be a unified, broad-based conservative movement that believes in states' rights, personal responsibility, and family.
7:58 in the morning. Stay with us. Fagan, Biegel, Bonnie. Bethany's there for Bonnie. Stay with us.
When you've got the best ingredients, the pizza comes out right. That's just what we're cooking for every appetite. Experience the flavor, call us right away. 24/7, it's a pizza party day.
October is National Pizza Month. Just hearing the word pizza brings a smile to almost everyone's face. And Sicily's Pizza wants to make you smile 5 times as big with their National Pizza Month special. Get as many as 5 medium 2-topping pizzas for only $9.99 each. Whatever style you like. For fast delivery, call 333-8000 and order the Sicily's National Pizza Month special. 333-8000 or order online at SicilysPizza.com. Best ingredients, best pizza, Sicily's.
Just call Sicily's Pizza. 333-8000.
Hot talk all day. Hot talk every day. 95.1 FM, 1080 AM, KOAN, Anchorage.
Fox News Radio, I'm Lisa Brady. A friend of the Boston Marathon bombing suspect found guilty of lying to the FBI about the night other friends removed potential evidence from a dorm room.
The jury found that he was present in the room while others did what they did in this case.
Defense attorney Susan Church, Fox News Radio's Bill Marcus, outside federal court in Boston.
Lisa, Robel Filipos, the last of 3 accused friends of the alleged Boston Marathon bomber, like his 2 colleagues before him, guilty. Jurors saying he was guilty of 2 counts of making false statements in 5 separate lies he told to the FBI when they were investigating the marathon bombing. The 2 counts carrying a possible federal prison sentence of 16 years. Sentencing is scheduled for January 29th. Tsarnaev's trial is set to begin January 5th. Lisa?
Thanks, Bill. The NTSB says a sleepy engineer caused last year's fatal derailment of a Metro North train in New York when he nodded off at the controls. But federal regulators also find fault with railroad policies in a string of recent crashes.
5 accidents in one railroad in less than a year beg the question, how important was safety at Metro North?
The NTSB's Christopher Hart calls it a troubling pattern of safety issues that needs to be addressed. A second Dallas nurse recovers from Ebola while another nurse from Maine challenges quarantine rules. Fox Radio's Evan Brown with a live update.
Lisa, doctors at Emory University Hospital in Atlanta say nurse Amber Vincent from Dallas is now Ebola-free and will speak publicly this afternoon. She's the second nurse to recover after caring for now-deceased Ebola victim Thomas Eric Duncan. And another nurse originally quarantined at a New Jersey hospital after returning from working in Sierra Leone is now at a private home in Maine. Casey Hickox tested negative for Ebola and is mounting a legal challenge to quarantine orders, Lisa.
Evan, thanks. You're listening to Fox News Radio, fair and balanced.
America was built by people with a few dollars and a dream. And while many don't know it, there's one path to success that still only requires a dream and about $10. That's right. If your dream is to start or grow your business, something as simple as the right business card could make all the difference. And today at Vistaprint.com, you can get 500 full-color business cards for only $9.99. That's right, only $9.99. Just go to Vistaprint.com and enter promo code 1818 at checkout. That's Vistaprint.com, promo code 1818.
If you're looking for exhilaration, you found it. Whether cruising the road with a Can Am Spider, pounding trails with Can Am ATVs and side-by-sides, or carving snow with Ski-Doo sleds, these machines are engineered to thrill and perform. During the Yellow Tag event, save up to $4,000 on select models, plus get up to a 4-year extended warranty and great financing. Visit Team CC in Eagle River and Wasilla. Offer ends October 31st. Restrictions apply. Subject to credit approval. See dealer for details. For safety and training info, contact the ATV Safety Institute.
Hi, this is Jonathan Martin at Harrington & Company. Sellers, if you are going to sell your home, now may very well be the best time. The current interest rates are still very low in comparison to previous loan rates. Now is the time to take advantage of this uncommon phenomenon. We will look back at this period as a golden opportunity to buy or sell. Homeowners planning to sell should call us at 244-0821. We will be happy to come out and do a comparative market analysis at your convenience. Call Jonathan Martin at Harrington & Company, 244-0821. That's 244-0821.
I'm Bill Walker. A recent poll found that 55% of Alaskans think I am the candidate for governor most likely to get construction started on a gas pipeline, versus only 33% who thought it was Sean Parnell. Now that makes sense. Parnell doesn't seem to know what project he supports. Until recently, he was pushing for a gas pipeline through Canada. 2 years ago, he was all for a small diameter pipeline. Now in a pre-election epiphany, he's finally decided he supports a large diameter LNG project. On the other hand, I have long advocated for an LNG project at Tidewater. I know the players, I know the markets, I know what it takes to get a project underway. As governor, I will see an LNG project started and finished. As for the other guy, who knows what project he'll be supporting 2 years from now. As governor, I will finish the job. Alaska first, it's time.
Paid for by Walker and Malott for Alaska.
When Malarkey Mark Begich ran for U.S. Senator, he made a lot of claims about his record as Anchorage mayor. Begich knew the truth wouldn't come to light before the election. But now, history has caught up with Malarkey Mark. Under Begich, Anchorage taxes went up 27%. Under Begich, the city budget ballooned, a $142 million increase in spending. Under Begich, the city was saddled with unprecedented 5-year union contracts. Under Begich, a deficit of over $20 million was left for the next mayor to deal with. Begich left Anchorage in serious trouble. Alaska's Energy, America's Values paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. It's time to replace Malarkey Mark with U.S. Senator Dan Sullivan. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. EnergyandValues.com.
Tomcat kills up to 12 mice per bait block, faster than decon. What will we do with all of these dead mice? Tomcat presents Dead Mouse Theater, and the critics are raving. They solved my mouse problem and renewed my faith in theater. I'd like my mice dead, but dead mice that can act are even better. Tomcat got the mice out of my walls, onto the stage, and into my heart. Dead Mouse Theater, open to the public this fall at tomcat.com. Tomcat. Engineered to kill. 1 ounce bait block based on no choice lab tests. Time to leave the dose to death.
You're on with Fagan and Biegel on Hot Talk KOAN and online at
6 minutes past 8 o'clock on this Tuesday, October 28th, 1 week away from Election Day. We're going to have, Glenn and I are going to have lunch with Mike Daniels today. He's a great guy. He's the owner and manager here in Alaska of Country Financial. They have 13 locations across the state, very heavy presence. 5 locations in Anchorage, 5 in the Valley. Mike Daniels and his team, his country representatives, they're very knowledgeable. They have a lot of wisdom. You're gonna sit down with country financial representatives, and you're gonna really begin to understand how little you know about what you should know when it comes to financial planning. Just the first 5 or 6 questions I ask you, you're gonna go, "Wow, I never thought of that. I didn't think of that either." How can we? We can't be experts in everything. And that's why it's so important. You work hard, you play by the rules, you build your nest egg. Do you have enough insurance? Are you making the right decisions? Are you sure you're going to be okay when you retire? These are the questions that the folks at Country Financial can ask you and put you on the right path. Go see Mike Daniels and his team. Who's going to spell country for me, by the way? Can you spell country?
Let me think about that. COUNTRY.
That's the number, 866-COUNTRY, 866-COUNTRY. Country Financial. Give them a call.
I had a lot more of a beat to it, by the way.
Our number, 569-1080, 569-1080. Now they're worried that the House in Congress is going to get shellacked, too. That
Republicans will win dramatic number of seats in the House.
Debilitating losses is what politics calls it. House fear, debilitating losses in the House.
Well, nothing is as powerful as 60, because Begich did not need to negotiate with even left-wing Republicans like Olympia Snowe and Susan Collins and John McCain. No, I'm just saying how more powerful the Senate is. The 60th vote in the Senate is the most dramatic political occurrence that we have ever seen. It's more powerful than having all 3 houses of Congress when you've got the 60th vote in the Senate.
So what does that have to do with what I was just talking about?
Well, I don't really care about the House. The House doesn't make any difference to me.
Because if we get the right people in the House, then that's going to just go right along with having the right folks in the Senate.
Well, we could win more Senate races if the House turns so dramatically. Is that what you're saying? That
I'm saying if we get more conservative House people as opposed to not so conservative Republican.
Well, we already
House
had
people.
a dramatic, plethora of Republicans in the House, 230 to 187, I think, is what the numbers were before.
The same as conservatives.
Well, that's true, but I really want to get to 60 in the Senate. Then we have a shot to repeal Obamacare. I mean, things like that are really hard to do
within Obama's term. You're talking about?
Yeah. Well, no, they can stop. Unless we get 60 Republicans.
We're not going to get 60 Republicans this election.
No, but unless we get 60 Republicans ever. See, the thing is that you got to take your wins when you can get them. We need to get to about 54 or 55 this time in order to have a shot to get to 60 next time so that we could repeal Obamacare.
Right.
Because whoever is president, the Democrats will block it because the takeover of health care, the takeover 1/6 of the economy, that's key to them. People having every United States citizen have an interaction with government, not of their own will, of their own choice, but because they are required to. And not because you're old or poor, as we already are forcing people to interact with the government, but just because you're a citizen in the United States. I mean, that is so key to them. It turns more and more people to look for government for answers. So they cannot give up on Obamacare, and if there are more than 40 Democrats, they won't. They'll never believe they're going to lose Obamacare unless they lose the 60th seat.
Yeah.
Well, I think Obama has so devastated this country that for maybe a half a generation, we're not going to see many Democrats do very well in this country again. He has so exposed their agenda in a way no other Democrat ever has. And, you know, look, you say, well, Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter was inept. He was a boob. And that's why we, thought, well, the Democrats, they're not very good. But Obama was a true leftist. And he governed accordingly, and he brought about many leftist things to our country. And leftism, one of the trademarks of leftism is lawlessness. And the fact that he passes laws and then changes them after the fact illegally.
Mm-hmm.
People are waking up to that. And I think the nation has, in many ways, Barack Obama could be the salvation of this nation. Because he wasn't allowed to completely destroy the country. But we're going to get rid of him and his ilk.
He's been a great teacher for what the left truly believes. Race relations, worse that they've been, I don't know, probably since the 50s.
Nothing's better, Glenn.
It's amazing. The middle class, devastated under this president.
Nothing's better.
The rich people on Wall Street, they got it better. They printed $1 trillion and gave it to him every year.
For the one percenters. Yeah. The one percenters are the only people who benefited from
Which is so funny because the Democrats are always acting like, oh, we're your buddies. We're people. We're for the people. The people have gotten screwed during this administration, and the people who are rich, those are the people who are getting more rich. It's amazing. If George Bush had done the same thing, of course, he rightly would have been criticized for printing $1 trillion and giving it to Wall Street. And we would have been savage for it.
But back to your point about the Senate, we go to 54, 55 this time, we'll get to 60.
You're right. If we get 54 or 55 this time, the likelihood we will get to 60.
Now this I'm gonna channel Bonnie Cameron here. We cannot elect a Bob Dole, John McCain, Gerald Ford. We could not elect a moderate Republican because he'll ruin everything.
Now I got a great question here because I don't know how Bethany Markham is going to answer this.
Who's filling in for Bonnie Cameron today?
Yeah. What do you think of Mitt Romney? Is he a conservative? Is he not a conservative? Well, and then just take all your friends and everything else. Just you and me.
For people on the East Coast, he's a conservative.
Okay.
For me, no, he's definitely not a conservative.
Okay.
It depends on where you're from.
He's not somebody who you'd look to as an option.
No.
Okay.
No.
I see the Rand Paul and Ted Cruz. I mean, this is where the strength is, the power is, the interest is, the energy is on the Republican side.
But you would say, would you not, Glenn, that there's a world of difference between Ted Cruz and Rand Paul, especially on national world affairs?
I honestly don't know where Rand Paul is because I can kind of understand it sometimes, but I see his dad and I see his dad's influence, and he walks away from his dad, and so I kind of take him as just sort of a traditional conservative with a little bit of a concern over how involved are we internationally. So I give him credit for wanting to hear what I want to hear, because that's what I want to hear. I don't want us to be wandering all over the world, sending our troops into the harm's way in Ebola.
Well, you've heard Ron Paul say the reason that Arabs hate us is because we have bases in the Middle East. It's our fault. Right? We've heard Ron Paul say that. There's no disputing that that's his position. Yes?
Yeah, I think I've heard him say that.
Well, Rand Paul basically said the same thing yesterday in a speech in New York, unveiling that he said we need to deal with conservative realism, which is that a lot of what America cannot disengage from the world, but a lot of the ill will towards us is our fault. And we'll get into this a little bit more. 814. Towards us is our fault. And we'll get into this a little bit more. 814.
You're on with Fagan and Biegel in the morning on the Talk of the Valley. Don't just sit there. Give them a call. 569-1080. Join the conversation. KOAN.
Do you know Lynn Gaddis?
Yeah, I know Lynn Gaddis. Drove a 570cc sled to the peak of McKinley in a gall dang blizzard.
Hey, I never did that.
I heard Lynn Gaddis skinned a rabbit with her teeth in 10 seconds flat.
That never happened.
I heard that Lynn Gaddis fights for conservative principles in state government.
Well, that's true. I'm Lynn Gaddis. I love to hunt and fish, and yes, I love to ride snow machines. But what I really love is making life better for my friends and neighbors in Wasilla by bringing common sense and conservative values to Juneau. I believe in a sustainable budget. I believe in regulatory reform and resource development. And I believe in school choice and parental rights. I'm Lynn Gaddis, and I'd appreciate your vote to keep skinning some rabbits in the state legislature.
I knew it!
Just kidding.
Paid for by committee to elect Lynn Gaddis, 1650 North Shoreline Drive, 99654.
I'm Mark Begich, running for U.S. Senate, and I approve this message. Paid for by Alaskans for Begich.
Who will protect your privacy rights in the U.S. Senate? Dan Sullivan worked for Condoleezza Rice, one of the architects of the surveillance state. She's in Sullivan's TV ads because he helped implement her agenda that threatens Alaskans' liberty, like extending the Patriot Act that allows the government unlimited access to your personal records. And when Sullivan was with the National Security Council, the NSA authorized warrantless wiretaps of U.S. citizens. Sullivan is bankrolled by the billionaire Koch brothers, who have been manipulating the oil markets for years, driving up gas prices. And Sullivan even opposes the Stand Your Ground law that allows you to defend yourself in your own home. Only 2 candidates oppose the Patriot Act and NSA wiretapping and support Stand Your Ground. And that's Mark Begich and libertarian Mark Fish. True Alaskans fighting the Dan Sullivan surveillance state.
This is Allison Arians. I was offended earlier this year when Mike Hawker used a picture of me in his newsletter when he knew I didn't support his actions. And now I read in the news that he's done it again with Carol Como. Shame on you, Mike. Mike claims to support education, but we know better. He broke his word to fight for full school funding, and now teachers are being laid off statewide. Our schools are suffering. Mike's got his priorities wrong, but I don't. I think integrity matters, especially when it comes to our children. That's why I'll be voting for Sam Combs for State House. Sam Combs will be a champion for education. He'll fight to fully fund our schools, and he'll respect us when he uses our pictures, because it's the right thing to do.
I'm Sam Combs. Allison's right. Integrity matters. I won't steer sole source leases to my buddies like Mike did, or let education become just another compromise. I'll fight for integrity, and I'll fight for you. I'm Sam Combs, and I appreciate your vote on November 4th.
Paid for by Sam Combs for your state house.
Mark Begich votes with Barack Obama 97% of the time. Obamacare, trillions in new debt, job-killing EPA regulations. Mark Begich voted with Barack Obama for all of it. Now, Obama says,
I'm not on the ballot this fall. But make no mistake, these policies are on the ballot. Every single one of them.
A vote for Mark Begich is a vote for Obama's agenda. It's time for a change.
I'm Dan Sullivan. Our country's on the wrong track, and it's Barack Obama's failed policies that put us there. There's nothing wrong with America that can't be fixed by what's right with Alaska. As your senator, I'll stand up to Barack Obama and federal overreach, unleashing Alaskan energy to create jobs, fighting wasteful spending, and strengthening America's national security while taking care of our veterans. I'm Dan Sullivan. I'm running for the U.S. Senate, and I approve this message. I'd be honored by your vote.
Paid for by Sullivan for U.S. Senate.
You're on with Fagan and Biegel in the morning. Give them a call, 569-1080. KOAN.
All right, 8:19. Glen Biegel, Bonnie Cameron is not here. Bethany Markham is filling in for her. She's in Hawaii. Listening to us. We know you're listening, Bonnie. 569-1080. What's on your mind, Glenn? You got something you want to say?
He looks pretty contemplative.
Well, I'm just reading through Rand Paul, and I'm glad that he is telling people what he really believes, because I don't think he could get elected to president because of it. So I'm a big fan of debate, and I'm a big fan of the truth. So I'm not afraid for Rand Paul to come out and say these kinds of things, and I don't put any of my hope.
What kind of things?
This is what, and this is a piece from Breitbart. Rand Paul, It's America's Fault, and it was published just yesterday, by the way. So most people probably haven't heard this. Many of the same governments have been chronic recipients of our aid. This is Rand Paul. It's a quote from a speech that he gave. So Islam is not to blame for a jihadi terrorism. America is, because we support unjust regimes.
Which is what his dad believes.
Yeah, and I disagree with that. I do agree that we have supported unjust regimes, but oftentimes we are forced to pick the the lesser of two evils. And certainly, for instance, Egypt is a great example of that. The regime that we had kept in power and were supporting, they were not good. But what we saw come through after...
How were they not good?
How was their regime...
Mubarak?
Yeah.
How were they not good?
I think he was responsible for killing many of his own people.
How so? I don't really... I mean, I suppose they were probably, they didn't have an ACLU over there, but I don't think you could compare Mubarak to an evil dictator. They were not human rights abuses that I was aware of under the Mubarak regime.
Yeah, I was aware of some. You want me to give you a report card?
Well, just give me was it stoning of people who didn't want to be Muslim anymore, or what? I mean,
well, he was found guilty of crimes against humanity
by the Muslim Brotherhood.
Life and crimes of Hosni Mubarak.
Yeah, but that's the Muslim Brotherhood who brought charges against him because they took over the country.
This is in news.com in Australia. The life and crimes of Hosni Mubarak. Let's see. Served as the fourth president of Egypt from 1981 until he was ousted in February of 2011 after mass protests against his regime erupted in Cairo and other Egyptian cities. His elevation to the presidency was bloody. 1981. Anwar Sadat, shot by Islamist extremists as he watched the military parade. Mubarak was sitting next to him. I don't know. It just goes on and on and on. What do you want me to say?
Well, I thought Mubarak was a great leader in that, first of all, obviously most Arabs are not fond of Israel, the Jewish state, but Mubarak was an ally in that he held back the rest of the Arab countries from annihilating Israel. That's what most of the Middle East want to do.
Yeah, he's not an Islamist, but that doesn't make him.
But I don't.
He wouldn't be qualified to be president of the United States.
I don't remember hearing of any human rights abuses.
Okay, well, personally, I will give you chapter and verse if you'd like tomorrow.
Okay. Well, maybe I'm wrong about that, but
No, you are wrong about that. There's no question about it. Mubarak was not a good guy. His regime was not a good regime, and we don't have the point that we're trying to make here is we don't have the choice between the perfect and the perfectly evil.
And I'm not saying he's perfect, but I don't know that he was evil.
So we have to make these choices, and so that's the difficulty. I disagree with Rand Paul. I don't think he can get elected president based on saying that Islamists are not responsible for the evil in their own country.
By the way, Bonnie Cameron just texted.
Oh, what did she say? She was listening.
Rand Paul, ? I'm yelling at the radio again. I don't know. Does that mean she likes Rand Paul?
I don't know.
I would imagine she likes Rand Paul. Look.
I like him too, but I'm mad at him for the statement.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, but that's my take on it. Look, I like the process that we go through. I think it's a very good process to vet people, find out exactly what they believe. It happens on the right. It does not happen on the left. People on the left are never asked in public what they're going to do, who they're going to serve, what they're going to give away, and that kind of thing, which is the difficulty I'm having with our current campaign here for governor. I honestly don't think that. I know there's a lot of conservatives who are going to vote for Bill Walker and Malat. He's the ex-Democrat who was running for governor, and my suggestion to them is that they don't know exactly what they're voting for. They have no idea what the purpose of this new cabinet's going to be or this governor's going to be. So that's my take on it. But anyway, I'm glad Rand Paul came out and told us what he thinks about that, and maybe he'll clarify. Maybe he'll maybe he'll walk it back. I don't know.
569-1080, 569-1080. That's the number if you want to join Dan Fagan, Glen Biegel Show. Bethany Markham today, filling in for Bonnie Cameron, who is in Hawaii. Jean, you're on.
Good morning, Dan.
Good morning.
You are correct about Mubarak, and I would like to hear a subject where the nice lady that is there with you today,
Bethany Markham.
Yes, can participate in. I like what she's saying.
Yeah? You think she's doing a good job?
Yes.
You know, Bonnie's listening in Hawaii. Do you want to say something to Bonnie?
Aloha.
Aw.
Thank you.
We miss her.
Thank you, Gene.
Bye.
Well, you know, when you're talking about candidates, and you never know. What I'm looking for in a candidate is number one is life. Do you respect and honor and cherish life? Starts there with me. Do you understand the concept of freedom? Do you understand that when you grow government, you shrink the individual? Do you understand that it is the free market that creates wealth, not government? These are some basic fundamental principles. Frankly, to be honest with you, if I could get negative for a moment, we probably lost about 40% of the Republicans on those first two. I mean, it's true.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
They almost removed the life plank out of the Republican Party platform twice because they get activists to go down to
they're like
Juneau.
They're like Bill Walker. Well, I'm pro-life, but I'm not going to do anything about it. I'm not going to make it a priority. It's not important to me.
Right.
How can you say life is not important to you? And the free market, frankly, I don't think Sean Parnell is much of a free market guy. I don't think he understands how crucial the free market is.
Prop 1?
Huh?
Prop 1?
Well, which one?
Prop 1 was to go either return to
the
ACES.
primary. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, no. He's a smaller government guy. He would take that, but you cannot be for the minimum wage and understand the free market. You can't.
I agree. I agree.
But
So
didn't he expend as much political effort as he could on Prop 1? I mean, to me, Prop 1 was. I agree that we've lost the argument on the minimum wage, and so many people are not willing to make the argument. But he did make the argument for the free market.
Oh,
of
no.
oil.
Look, Parnell's a gazillion times more free market than Walker. But I'm talking about hardcore understand the free market is the answer. You cannot allow government to manipulate the economy, determine wages, overregulate, try to prop up the economy with stimulus. That's what I'm talking about.
Well, you can.
Well, it's temporary. It's not sustainable.
You can, and people do, and we have had a minimum wage for a long period of time.
Yeah.
And it's not like we don't have an economy. We don't have a private economy, and the
but
state
we'd
of
have
Alaska.
a much stronger economy without it.
Yeah, well, we would have a much better trained workforce. I do think that's the case.
Yeah.
More people would have more jobs. I think that's the case, yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
So, look, the three of us and Bonnie, we understand how crucial the free market is. The free market does not pick winners and losers. The government does. The free market rewards excellence, ingenuity, risk, and hard work.
Mm-hmm.
So which system do you want?
Right.
And I don't know that the Republican Party as a whole typically gets how crucial the free market is over the government picking winners and losers.
All right, because you're going to have some losers in the free market.
Yeah,
right?
but it'll be because
that's
of
the reality.
It'll be the choices they made.
Bethany, you know this. We learn more through our failures in life.
Absolutely. It's like we have to fail in order to know.
If we didn't have our
know
failures
what's
in
right
life,
and
we
what's
wouldn't
good.
be who we were.
Yeah.
569-1080, time 8:29. Fagan, Biegel, Bonnie, Bethany, Markham in for Bonnie Cameron today.
That's a lot of names.
I wonder how many Mai Tais what do they call them? Mai Tais.
She's loaded. as we.
It's only 7:30 over there.
She's loaded.
Yeah. Stay with us, folks.
Mornings from 6 to 9 a.m. on the You're on with Fagan and Biegel. Give him a call. 569-1080. KOAN.
Local news brought to you by Jansen Funeral Homes, Jansen's Evergreen Memorial Chapel, Jansen's Alaska Cremation Center, and Jansen's Eagle River Funeral Home. Jansen Funeral Homes, where just like family, they're there when you need them.
With KOAN News, I'm Chuck White. Groups that oppose the legalization of marijuana here are pointing to an increase in fires in Colorado, one of the arguments against it. They say that state experienced a hike in fires, home explosions, and injuries after becoming the first to legalize pot. As Ann Kenda reports, candidates for governor traded barbs during a recent debate.
Independent candidate Bill Walker painted a picture of Governor Parnell as someone who was slow to respond to allegations that the Alaska National Guard allows a culture of sexual assault. Parnell disputed that charge and questioned whether Walker got a special deal from Democrats when he joined forces with Byron Mallett, who's running for lieutenant governor.
Permits have been secured for a natural gas processing facility in the Fairbanks area. It was built as a stopgap measure until a gas pipeline is built, but neither project is a done deal yet. That's your Hot Talk News update.
Partial sunshine for today, high 30. For tonight, mostly clear skies and cold, low 15. Partly sunny tomorrow, high 32. Wednesday night, low 19. Thursday, sunshine and clouds, high 32. Friday, cloudy, high 33. Hot Talk, breaking news, and the latest weather. KOAN 95.1 FM and 1080 AM.
Hey folks, this is Chris and Brock from The Beer Show. Make sure to listen to us every Saturday at 5 p.m. on 95.1 and 1080 KOAN.
The Beer Show is brought to you proudly every single week by Humpy's Great Alaska Ale House, Brown Jug Alaska, Great Artisan Beverages, and the Odom Corporation. Always drink responsibly.
A better life with Dr. Sanjay Gupta.
Making just a few small tweaks to your running technique can eliminate side cramps and prevent other injuries as well. I'm Dr. Sanjay Gupta, CNN's chief medical correspondent. If you're new to running, make sure to ease into the activity. Increasing your distance at one time can lead to injury. There are running apps as well for digital devices, like Couch to 5K and Couch to 10K. That can help ease you to your goal. Another tip, an important one, you can prevent side cramps by learning how to control your breathing during a run. You should be at a pace where you're able to carry on a conversation. If you find that you're out of breath, slow down your speed. There's really no rush. Then take deep belly breaths to get it under control. Also, if you're short on time, skip the pre-run stretch. Research shows it doesn't prevent injury. The best way to do that is to stretch and rehydrate after your run is complete. I'm Dr. Sanjay Gupta, helping you live a better life.
The flu, pneumonia, whooping cough, hepatitis A, shingles, meningitis, tetanus. That's a scary list. But did you know immunizations can protect you from every one? You didn't? Well, we do. Rite Aid pharmacists are certified to immunize against the most common preventable diseases. Find out what immunizations you need with a free immunization evaluation at Rite Aid today. With us, it's personal. Availability and age restrictions apply in some states. See pharmacist for details.
Right now at the Home Depot, get a 10-year sealed battery smoke and carbon monoxide alarm start at just $24.97. So, let's worry less. Let's do smarter fire safety. Alarms that won't turn off, and batteries that won't chirp for 10 long years. Let's do this. Get a worry-free alarms, starting at just $24.97. More saving, more doing. That's the power of the Home Depot. U.S. only. See store for details.
It's the most advanced technology available. Engineered with over 200 million sensory receptors. Its all-terrain design is beautifully formed, weather-resistant, reliable, astonishingly high performance in even the most challenging of circumstances. And it is also the finest search technology in the world. There's nothing else quite like a search dog. Be part of the search. Go to searchdogfoundation.org to see how you can help.
6 years ago, we took a chance on Mark Begich. Begich promised us he'd be an independent voice for Alaska. Instead, he's voted with Barack Obama 97% of the time for Obamacare, wasteful spending, and trillions in debt. Begich supported them all, even though they hurt Alaska. 6 years ago, Begich promised to fight for Anwar. 6 years later, Anwar is still closed to exploration, and Begich stood by as Obama's overzealous EPA hurt Alaska. Instead of taking responsibility for his failures and broken promises, Begich is running a vicious campaign with attacks called some of the most dishonest and inflammatory of the year. We gave Mark Begich a chance. He gave us a record of Obamacare, wasteful spending, and broken promises. We can't afford 6 more years of Mark Begich. Alaska needs a change. American Crossroads paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising, not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. www.americancrossroads.org.
Hot Talk KOAN, man. You're on with Fagan and Biegel. 1080 KOAN.
8:35. Fagan, Biegel, and Bonnie. Bethany Markham in for Glen Biegel or for Bonnie Cameron today.
The time for you to think about your roof, they come and go. You know, and summertime is when we replace most roofs. That's when most roofing projects happen. But it can be done in wintertime, especially now. There's not a lot of snow. If you have any roofing problems, it's really a good time for you to call and have a free re-roofing estimate done. 345-5555. The folks over at Earhart Roofing, they're just great at what they do. You do not become the Better Business Bureau Business of the Year for 2010. That's across all businesses across the entire state of Alaska, unless you are fantastic. A lot of my friends have gotten their roofs redone with Earhart Roofing, and I highly recommend them. You got to give them a chance at your business, one way or the other. Include them in your bidding process. Have them come over and give you a free re-roofing estimate. 345-5555 Earhart.
Our number here in the studio, 569-1080. We're happy to welcome to the broadcast the governor of the state of Alaska, Governor Sean Parnell. Governor, how are you doing, sir?
I'm well. Good morning. How are you guys doing?
We're good. We're a week away. You ready for the big day?
Oh, you bet. In fact, I think Alaskans are ready to vote and have this done.
Well, I did not get to see the debate on Channel 2, but I heard from several sources, from several folks who said you really did well and that Mr. Walker came across not so well. He came across kind of angry and accusatory and didn't seem to have much of a personality to him. Well, what was your take on the debate?
Well, I think Alaskans got a good picture for the distinctions between us and my record of accomplishments for Alaskans. So when I think about the differences, I think about Bill Walker on the budget. You know, he says there's a deficit, but he's got no plan to fix it. He says that the gas line structure is fatally flawed, even though we're making historic progress there, and all he wants to do is renegotiate it and delay it. He's litigating us at Point Thompson's. We had 1,000 jobs there this spring, and he's trying to stop development there. So I think Alaskans got a really good picture of the differences between us. And I don't see, my job was to persuade Alaskan voters that this path of economic growth, we need to continue it, but there's no reason to switch horses midstream.
Governor, it's Glenn. So another story came out today about an email between Mike Nizick and some other people in your administration about meetings with the Guard chaplains, and they highlight in the story this uncomfortableness or discomfort, I guess that's a better way to put it, about people going forward and reporting difficulties with the Guard to management, to the general. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, thank you for giving me that chance. And first, whether it was a sexual assault victim that came forward or whether it was a chaplain, I took those concerns and allegations seriously. In fact, if you read the article today related to that email and get to the bottom of it, I mean, at the very end, to Rich Mauer's credit, he actually made note of the fact that we had already gone to the FBI with allegations that they had, that just afterwards, after the chaplain had approached us, that they came back to us and said there was no basis for the allegations. Hindsight's always 20/20, and frankly, this is one of those moments where I wish we could have gotten to the root of things at the time. But when you look at what my office did, you look at what the National Guard Bureau came in 2011 and did an inspection of the sexual assault reporting process and found everything to be in order. When Senator Begich launched his own investigation through the National Guard Bureau in 2012, and they found everything in order. And then when Senator Kowski launched the DOD investigation in 2013 and found everything in order, it wasn't until I, persisted in 2014 in February in calling in this National Guard Bureau Office of Complex Investigations that we really did get to the root of things. We're on a good path now. We've got a roadmap from the National Guard Bureau on how to restore the trust and confidence in our Guard members, for their leadership. I think we're on a positive track there now.
Well, we got, and I think this was one of the things most people took away, the quote sort of this debate. You are not the victim. Do you feel like a victim? Was that a fair thing for him to say? Is he trying to turn this back to the people who were raped and assaulted? What was the goal for him in that statement?
Well, you'd have to ask him. I mean, I thought it was a misplaced and poor attempt to discredit me when, the victims are those who were sexually assaulted. I mean, they're the victims here. They're the ones that deserve us to believe them. I believed them at the time they reported and checked it out and made sure that their cases had gone to law enforcement. That's really what you do when either you are sexually assaulted or you're helping someone who has been. You try to get them to law enforcement, and then you work to get them the support services they need. So I'm not really sure what he was trying to do.
It's because what it sounds like to me is he's trying to prevent you from explaining what happened. I mean, if you can get something into a soundbite that says you're not the victim, that means you, the governor, need to just shut up and let people believe what they're going to believe without you explaining what it is that you did.
Well, and I think people who were watching the debate recognized that statement of his did not fit with what I had just said and discounted it as a poor attempt to.
Yeah, I don't think it flew very well. I got a question for you because this was a real shocker for you, and we're talking to Governor Sean Parnell here. His statement that the gas line has been where it is many times in the past was a complete and total disregard for the agreements that you've made with Exxon, the termination of, the threatened termination of the Point Thompson unit, and then them moving forward on it and building infrastructure and 1,000 jobs. He can't possibly believe that we're no different now in the gas line than before.
No, I mean he's trying to say we've been this far and farther before on a gas line.
When did he give an example? I mean, what is he talking about?
No, he's talking about how he went to the market and had people willing to buy gas, but that's not a project. Those are buyers who want gas on the cheap. I'm in this to maximize value for Alaskans by aligning ourselves with others like ourselves who want to sell gas for that maximum value. This is the first time in our history that the state, in the driver's seat for its own interest, along with companies who also have an interest in selling gas at the highest value, are laying money down to make this happen. And when Bill Walker submitted his project documents to the federal government, they rejected them, saying there's no project here. This is totally different. We are making historic progress. We're on the road to a gas line, and with 4 more years, we will get this gas line built.
Governor Parnell, when Bill Walker says there was no deal made to form the Unity ticket, nobody was promised anything. Do you believe him?
No, I said that didn't pass the smell test. In fact, when they came out of the room and had their press conference, they said we've reached an agreement. Well, I want to know what the terms. I want to know what the terms are. I think Alaskans deserve to know what the terms are.
Well, and they negotiated for 4 days, right?
Yeah, they didn't do it out of the goodness of their heart.
Hey, Governor, can we keep you on for one more second? I got to ask you about the bullet line.
8:44. Governor Sean Parnell's with us. We'll be right back.
Fagan and Biegel on Hot Talk KOAN and online at 1080KOAN.com.
Is your IT department burdened with first-line support calls about printer jams and broken printers? Are individual departments purchasing expensive printer cartridges that get buried in office supply budgets? Is your printer support strategy really a printer replacement plan? Let Alaska Enterprise Solutions show you how to reduce those high print costs. AES is a Xerox professional agency in Alaska with Xerox's worldwide support behind them. You can reach us at aesalaska.com or 561-5100.
Harry Crawford looks to be...
That's it. Your time is up.
I'm Senator Kathy Giesel. It's time to set the record straight. Only in an election year would you hear someone paint a $52 million funding increase as a cut in education funding. Only in an election year would you hear that a $2 billion cut was actually a budget increase. Only in an election year would you hear someone claim they work hard to keep your energy bills low. All the while, Harry Crawford's first vote on the Chugach Electric Board was to vote himself a raise. It's reflective of a candidate who has no record of accomplishments, no ideas, and no desire to serve you. Alaskans deserve better than that. I'm Senator Kathy Giesel, and I'll continue to do the hard work necessary to improve education outcomes, keep energy costs low, and make sure generations of Alaskans will have the jobs they need. That's my no-nonsense promise to you. Paid for by re-elect Senator Kathy Giesel, Anchorage.
Paid for by More for Alaska, Anchorage.
Taking pride in work when it comes from the heart. Doing your best and staying the course, even in tough times. There are Alaskans who still understand the value of service and sacrifice. Matt Moore is one of those. Someone who knows that paying your dues should come before office and power. That leadership, wielded by inexperienced and self-interested hands, can be destructive.
This is Matt Moore. Lance Pruitt is proud of his record. A record of not fully funding education. Budget deficits that put our permanent fund at risk. And supporting mega projects we can't afford. My father once told me, whatever you choose to do it well. That's the way our country was. The way I'd like to see it be again. Where pride in work comes from actually doing an honorable job. Because that's the way it ought to be.
Matt Moore, a legislator we can be proud of.
The flu, pneumonia, whooping cough, hepatitis A, shingles, meningitis, tetanus. That's a scary list. But did you know immunizations can protect you from every one? You didn't? Well, we do. Rite Aid pharmacists are certified to immunize against the most common preventable diseases. Find out what immunizations you need with a free immunization evaluation at Rite Aid today. With us, it's personal. Availability and age restrictions apply in some states. See pharmacist for details.
Mark Begich votes with Barack Obama 97% of the time. Obamacare, trillions in new debt, job-killing EPA regulations. Mark Begich voted with Barack Obama for all of it. Now, Obama says,
I'm not on the ballot this fall. But make no mistake, these policies are on the ballot. Every single one of them.
a vote for Mark Begich is a vote for Obama's agenda. It's time for a change.
I'm Dan Sullivan. Our country's on the wrong track, and it's Barack Obama's failed policies that put us there. There's nothing wrong with America that can't be fixed by what's right with Alaska. As your senator, I'll stand up to Barack Obama and federal overreach, unleashing Alaskan energy to create jobs, fighting wasteful spending, and strengthening America's national security while taking care of our veterans. I'm Dan Sullivan. I'm running for the U.S. Senate, and I approve this message. I'd be honored by your vote.
Paid for by Sullivan for U.S. Senate.
You're on with Fagan and Biegel on Hot Talk KOAN and online at 1080KOAN.com.
All right, 8:49. Fagan, Biegel, and Bonnie. Bonnie Cameron's in Hawaii sipping Mai Tais. Bethany Markham is sitting in for her today. We're speaking to Governor Sean Parnell.
Governor Parnell, there is an attack or a line of commentary from the Walker campaign that I do agree with, and I wanted to bring it up with you and get your take on it. And that is, everything's on the table. We're spending money on all these projects. They can't possibly all go forward. Tell me why the bullet line is even being considered.
the bullet line. So let's back up and talk to Alaskans about what that is, because we have the Alaska LNG project, which is the large volume, large diameter project that's right now acquiring land in the Kiski. They're in pre-feed, doing that real engineering, real design work to move that forward. The bullet line is Alaska's backup plan, so that we make sure that Alaskans get their gas to Alaskans should the AKLNG project falter. They're being run by the same company, the Alaska Gas Line Development Corporation, which is it's our state corporation that carries Alaska's interest in a gas line. And so the information is being shared among the pipelines, so making sure that we're not duplicating efforts or duplicating work. But Alaskans really deserve to have a backup plan should AKLNG falter.
Well, what I don't understand is this: the bullet line, the smaller diameter line, was designed under a GIA before we knew we had a whole bunch of gas down here in Anchorage, and so really it was going to help serve the Anchorage market, which is the only market large enough to support a $10 billion gas line. Well, the Anchorage market doesn't need gas, and so we're talking about just Fairbanks and Nenana and a couple other places using this gas. You could be talking about a $300,000 subsidy per structure.
So, Glenn, number one, it was not the bullet line was not done under a GIA. It was done under legislation by Representative Mike Chenault. It was House Bill 364, and then ultimately House Bill 4. The notion again is that we cannot rely on AKLNG for sure at this point in time, but we need a backup plan to commercialize gas. If we need North Slope gas in the ground without making sure that Alaskans can use it all down the rail bed as well as the interior communities, that's not acceptable to me. I want to make sure that we get gas to Alaskans and then the markets beyond. AKLNG is on track to doing that. We're making historic progress, but we need a backup plan, and we can slow down that work to run it in parallel with AKLNG, so that we're not duplicating effort. We're not spending more on it than is necessary at this moment to protect Alaskans.
You would spend enough to keep it alive to make sure that if in 2018, because I think 2018 that's the go no go decision. Will we have any heads up if they're gonna think about not doing it?
Well, don't forget, we have another stage gate in 12 to 14 months on AKLNG. Remember, we're in pre-feed right now, that pre-front-end engineering design. That's what the legislature has committed to. It's committed up to $70 million there, in combination with about another $400 million from the other companies, combined. 12 to 14 months of work gets done, the engineering work gets done, the design work gets done, agreements, the terms of agreements get negotiated again. Take it all in front of the legislature in 12 to 14 months. They then have to make a decision whether, under what they see and what the public input is at the time, whether to go to the next stage, which is the front end engineering and design. That's where everything is designed down to the last flange and valve, and that's a more significant financial commitment for the state. If the legislature decides not to move forward at that time, then we have this discussion about, okay, so here's our alternative for Alaskans. Is this the best thing out for Alaskans given where we are? So it's an option for Alaskans rather than banking on a single project.
Governor, the statement that there's no difference between you and Bill Walker on social issues, the issue of the sanctity of life and whether we should redefine marriage, is that a fair statement?
Well, it's a fair statement from a personal perspective, but not from how policy gets carried out. For example, when he came out of the room, and this was reported by the ADM, so take it with a grain of salt. But when he came out of the room with Byron Malott as his running mate, he said he was pro-life, but that he would veto any abortion restrictions, and then the next day walked back that statement. So I have concerns about what was really said in the room. Again, we need to know what the terms of the deal are there.
So he actually said, because I didn't know that was the specific wording. I had kind of been under the understanding he was just not going to do anything. But he actually said, I will not veto any restrictions on abortion?
I understood him to say he would veto restrictions.
He would, yeah, that's what I meant.
But I think, again, go back and read the ADN.
He said he would not allow for any changes in abortion regulations. So we currently fund 900 abortions through the Medicaid program. That will continue on if Walker becomes president or becomes governor.
So again, when do you check your principals at the door? I think that they check their principals at the door to form this alliance, and I don't think it's in Alaskans' interest to have competing forces, competing worldviews trying to manage together. We saw what happens with that, with kind of the unity Senate majority, that bipartisan Senate majority of the 2010, 2011, 2012, when they literally had to check their differences at the door on the tough topics and spend their way past the rest of their differences.
But there is a part of the electorate that is really kind of desiring this idea of all of us being one as Alaskans. There's a seductive quality to that. I agree with you. You can't compromise your core beliefs just for the sake of unity. But how do you overcome something like that as a guy who's running against a so-called unity ticket?
Well, I just let folks know, look, I represent all Alaskans, and I'll point back to my legislative agenda this last session. Number one was addressing the single biggest cost driver in the budget, the unfunded pension liability. I got a unanimous vote out of the legislature for that proposal. That knocked down, paid down our debt, lowered our annual payment. Got a unanimous vote. That's bipartisan. That's unity. The gas line. I brought the independent experts forward that had done our analysis for us. I brought the guidance documents that had been negotiated and asked the legislature for approval to move forward. 52-8 voted for my direction on getting us the AKLNG project and putting the state in the driver's seat. To me, it's about having a vision of where we're going and then being able to convince folks to go there with me. It's not about having to duke it out in the so-called unity position or that in that alliance, and then realizing, we really can't agree, but we'll solve everything by spending more. That's what we saw with the Senate bipartisan majority in 2010, 2011, 2012.
Hey, I noted at the AFN it just completed, they endorsed Walker Malott, and I had a question about why the signing of that bill, which recognized 20 different languages, native spoken languages, why was that signed away from the convention? And whose decision was that?
That was at the direction of the AFN Board of Directors, in August, when my office had discussions with them, and they thought it was a good idea to hold the signing. We'd asked to do it on the floor of the convention. In fact, they extend the courtesy to me to speak to the delegates every year, and I've done that every year I've been in office as governor. And I offered to sign it within the time frame they had given me to speak, and they said, no, you're gonna go to this this back room and sign it. But that being said, we had a wonderful bill signing. We had a room jam-packed with elders and speakers of 20 different Alaska Native languages who spoke in their language. It was a real celebration, nevertheless. And so I also don't want how we got there to diminish what actually happened. But it was at the direction of the AFN Board of Directors.
Governor, it's a real pleasure. We appreciate you giving us some of your time today. Have a great Tuesday.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. All right,
Bye-bye.
Governor Sean Parnell. We're done for the day, folks. So we got a couple of big debates coming up this week on the show. Kathy Giesel, Harry Crawford, hopefully Anand Dubé, and Matt Clayman. We'll see you tomorrow at 6 a.m.
Every weekday morning from 6 to 9 a.m. on Hot Talk KOAN 95.1 FM, 1080 AM, and online at 1080KOAN.